Hey now, happy Wednesday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis here with you on this Wednesday afternoon. Plenty to get to today. We would love for you to be a part of the program as well. Text line is open, 785-272-9429. You can also hit us up on YouTube, our YouTube channel called 580 Sports Talk. Live stream is rolling throughout the day today. We'd love for you to chime in on the comment section. Let us know your thoughts on anything we're talking about on the show today. Plenty of Chiefs versus Bills to get to. We'll get to an interesting point about the importance of dominance on offense versus dominance on defense for the Chiefs. We will also hear from both Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid over the course of the first couple hours of the show today. A lot of college hoops to get to. Nine. We'll lead things off with our Chiefs Bills coverage for this weekend. Right after a reminder that coming up on Friday, you know where to find us. 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock, we will be live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta, 20 minutes north of the capital city. Yours truly, Dan, Spencer. We will all be up there for a really fun remote broadcast. We're excited to be there. It's the only locally owned sportsbook in Kansas, the only tribally owned sportsbook in Kansas as well, and they will have their grand opening coming up on Friday. We will be there, ribbon cutting earlier in the afternoon. We'll be there from 2 until 4 for the show. So come on up, check us out. Again, not too far outside of the capital city. We'd love to be there, hanging out with you. Check out the new sportsbook at Prairie Band coming up on Friday. Right now, though, we got the Chiefs Bills.
Yeah.
Prairie Band.
They were in 3.
When
you told me, they were already in 3.
Yeah, underdog in the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes. I know it's on the road, but something at least worth considering. I'm going to consider that anyway. Chiefs Bills coming up on Friday. And we, I think, have broken down a handful of different elements of this game, and you can dive so deeply into very minute things and individual matchups, and we love stats here on this show, talking about EPA or certain other, deep, the nerd numbers, if you will.
Shouldn't be.
But does it come down in this game, and Dan proposed this idea, to will we find out who wins based on just whichever side of the ball is more dominant coming up on Saturday? Is that the thing that is going to determine for us for good what ends up being the deciding factor in this game? The Chiefs,
so we're over the air, but
when they allow 20 or more points, they're just 2-6, which is kind of crazy. And we know that offense is down all around the entire NFL, right? Like no one is. There have been very few teams that have been as dominant offensively over the balance of this season as we've been used to seeing. Really, you can delineate pre-Mahomes and post-Mahomes, whether you're talking about the Chiefs or not. But the Chiefs' defense has been so good that as long as you don't allow an opposing offense to be okay, or this year good, in past years what we would term as okay, the Chiefs are going to end up winning games. 2-6 on the year when allowing 20-plus points. That includes a loss to Buffalo earlier this season, when they lost 20-17. The Chiefs defense on that day held the Bills to 6 second-half points. They intercepted Josh Allen. They sacked him 3 times, and they didn't have Drew Tranquil. So that clearly was not a full-speed Chiefs team or Chiefs defense on that day, and still narrowly got to that miracle number. Okay? So it was a typically excellent performance for a Chiefs defense that has been typically excellent, like it has been all year long. And if not for, as we to
we shouldn't be anymore.
A number like that, they are going to end up being
done
just fine.
Is the choice was his
microphone to that number?
It still sounds like that.
It's going to be turning the ball over or forcing Josh Allen to turn the ball over. We know that the Chiefs have not been a great turnover team this year.
So that's been the game yard thing, or YouTube?
Not a ton of interceptions. We know the bit about at this point. We know the bit about Trent McDuffie and how he doesn't get takeaways, doesn't have interceptions. That's just not something he's done over the course of this season. They don't take it away a ton through the air. They don't take it away a ton with fumbles. But Josh Allen gives it away. He has given it away a ton over the balance of his entire career. Can you force those takeaways in this game? Can you force Josh Allen into bad decisions? To me, that means this game is decided more up front than it is on the back end. And we're not even getting to the Chiefs offense right here because we know the Chiefs have problems giving the ball away. They've had turnover problems over the course of this season. But if you look at this Chiefs defense,
trying to whatever they can do to put Josh Allen in difficult positions, put him in a spot where he is going to give the ball away. Where is the area in which that is going to be the biggest problem? Okay. Where is that the biggest issue? Is it trying to have elite coverage on the back end? Is that going to be about having elite pass rush and elite play by your defensive line up front? Which of those is going to end up being a bigger deal? To me, it's the defensive front and forcing Josh Allen into pressure situations. We know he can run. We know that Allen can take off and run and kill you with his legs, right? So if Josh Allen is free to wait back forever and doesn't have to work and wait forever to throw the ball, then he's going to be able to run all over the place and is going to be able to, I would say, make plenty of plays. I mean, that's kind of the entire thing. His entire career is he's been able to make plays on the run. But I would say, personally, Dan, that if you've got pressure on him constantly and are forcing him into situations where he's got to throw on the move, he's got to, he's only got 2 seconds or less to throw the ball, that is when I think Allen is going to be at his most susceptible. Meanwhile, if you are not pressuring him all day and you're trying to rely solely on, we're just going to win on the back end all day long, that's going to open up more rushing opportunities for the most dangerous rushing quarterback in the league.
Yeah, Chiefs did a pretty good job against him on the ground the first time through. Like, you don't want to allow the splash plays. You're worried about the third down escapes. Those kinds of scrambles can be difficult to cope with. You think you've got to stop. You think you're getting off the field. And then all of a sudden, Josh Allen squirms out of somebody's grasp. And that's why you can't really, you can blitz with a cornerback, but it's hard to bring Josh Allen down with a blitzing defensive back. Like, if you're going to sack him, you probably got to do it with one of your big guys. And even then, Allen's capable of squirming out of trouble and running for, 15 yards on 3rd and 14. He has that ability, and that's what makes him dangerous, what makes it so that if you're the Chiefs, you have to finish the play.
That might be one of the biggest challenges this weekend for them, is making sure that they don't let that happen, because when you can combine 15 yards, 10 yards, just chunk plays, you get yourself down the field and in the red zone.
So is that the biggest concern then? Is the biggest concern the biggest single key in this game, and we'll get to our more specific keys coming up on Friday's show, but is it simply force Josh Allen to turn the ball over? Like, is that the one thing that decides the game? Because we ran through the stats about don't allow 20 points, the Chiefs are going to end up winning the game. Yeah, I think that's generally true and will likely hold in this contest. Does that simply come down to whether or not Josh Allen turns the ball over?
That and whether or not the Chiefs turn the ball over. I think the turnover battle is so significant in this game because we've seen how it can hurt the Bills, and we've seen all year, much more up close and personally, how it can hurt the Chiefs. So the turnover battle will be critical. Chiefs were -1 in the first meeting. The difference didn't end up really hurting the Chiefs. The Rashee Rice fumbled near midfield.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it cost the Chiefs points because it happened on the Kansas City side of the field, but it also didn't result in any points for the Bills. So the Chiefs defense was able to limit that as a major factor. But this does feel like a game where things are really evenly matched, and one turnover, one short field could be really, really crucial. So I will feel great about the Chiefs winning this game if they can win the turnover battle. I will feel like if they can be +1 in that department or +2 in that department, that not only can they win, they should.
All right, here's a trivia question for both of you. Who had more giveaways this year? Who committed more turnovers, the Bills or the Chiefs?
Bills.
I think it was the Bills, wasn't it?
Trick question. 28 each. They each gave it away exactly 28 times this year. Here's the major difference, though, and why the turnovers are going turnovers always play a major role in the game. Obviously, possession is currency in the NFL. I get that. Here's what's going to make the biggest difference, though. Who had the better turnover margin this year, Chiefs or Bills?
Chiefs.
Gosh, I was just looking at the Bills' turnover margin. I think it was probably the Bills, but I think they were both in the negative.
No. The Bills actually were, on balance for the season, 13 better than the Chiefs. Bills were +2
Oh, they were
for the year.
Yeah.
The Chiefs -11. That was tied for 4th worst in the entire NFL. So I feel like while I do earnestly believe what I said earlier, that if you turn Josh Allen over, you're going to end up winning the game, you also have to pay especially close attention for your offense of your Kansas City to be careful with the ball. And maybe that comes down to the point we've been making all week, that you just have to keep feeding your playmakers over and over and over again, because you can't really trust a lot of those other guys to make plays for you consistently. And granted, Travis Kelce has dropped some balls this year. Rashee Rice has had a bit of a fumbling issue, as much as a wide receiver can have a fumbling issue. But those guys, you have to rely on them to be your playmakers, and they've got to consistently make those plays, because Buffalo, for giving it away 28 times all year, which, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere in the neighborhood of tied for the 7th most in the NFL, they also were really good at taking the ball away. They had the 3rd most total takeaways this season. And if they get back Rasul Douglas, who is good at taking the ball away through the air and utilizing the old peanut punch, that's something you've got to be extra careful about if you're the Chiefs. Because Buffalo, this entire Buffalo season has essentially been based on whether or not they win the turnover battle game to game.
Yeah, but even down the stretch, there were games where they didn't win the turnover battle, but they found a way to win the game anyway. The Miami game is an example where Buffalo turned it over 3 times in that game and still managed to win the contest. They were -3 in the turnover department against the Chargers, and they still won that game. They were, I think, fortunate to win both of those games. You could argue more fortunate maybe to beat a good Miami team than to beat a Charger team that was kind of ready to pack its bags there 3 weeks from the end of the season. But they have been able to outplay the turnover margin down the stretch in a way that the Chiefs have felt as though when they do lose the turnover battle, they lose. They don't find a way to win. They get frustrated by that, locks up their offense, and they haven't done enough good on offense to overcome what have been significant negatives, because more often than not for the Chiefs, it has felt like those negatives have resulted in points for the other team. So again, it wasn't as though in the first meeting, the Chiefs just couldn't stop turning the ball over. It was 2 turnovers. One of them was pretty critical because it halted what looked like a really impressive first drive of the game. So it felt like a bigger deal, but the Chiefs were able to keep the Bills from capitalizing on any of those turnovers. Not just the Rice fumble at midfield, but the Epinesa interception deep in Buffalo territory. I mean, that cost the Chiefs points. They were almost certainly going to get at least a field goal out of that drive. They had 2nd and 5 from the 30, so you feel pretty good about a scoring drive there. It cost them points, but it did not result in points on the board for Buffalo. So that will be key, I think, too, for the Chiefs. If they do make mistakes, they have to limit the impact of those mistakes.
And that, again, comes down to the pressure on the defense. And that's why I think, personally, the most repeatable part of a successful defense is getting after the quarterback, because you're ending up with more one-on-one matchups. There are fewer things that are variables. Coverage-wise, you've got to cover the specific route. Man versus zone, you've got different responsibilities. Too many things can go wrong or potentially go right when you're talking about coverage. The thing you can control the most defensively is getting after the quarterback, because you are matched up one-on-one, put your head down, go get ball. That's what it comes down to. I know there's more technique than just that. And I know different alignments mean different things, different responsibilities. I get that. But just in terms of the simplicity of what your goal is on a snap-to-snap basis, it's getting after the quarterback from the defensive line spot. That's why I think that is going to be your most key part of this game, is forcing as many pressures as you can, because we know pressure often leads to mistakes, especially with a mistake-prone quarterback who admittedly is also playing some of the best football I think he's ever played in Josh Allen. So that's where I look in this game to what is going to make the biggest difference, forcing Josh Allen into making those mistake-prone situations, because facing pressure over the course of their career leading into this game, who are you relying on more in a must-have situation to be careful with the ball? Are you relying on Patrick Mahomes, or are you relying on Josh Allen?
I'm relying on a 2-time MVP.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to the same thing we've talked about so many times. I need to see the Bills do it before I'm going to believe they can do it. And so far, 2 tries, they haven't been able to do it against the Chiefs in the postseason. Maybe this is the difference maker, though. Where, Spencer, since we haven't heard your specific take on this before, where do you put Josh Allen in the pantheon of NFL quarterbacks? Like, Mahomes is obviously number one. There's really no argument about that at this point. Where does Josh Allen seed in for you, tier list wise?
I kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday. It's just really hard because he was an MVP candidate 3 or 4 weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at his numbers, they're so staggering sometimes when it comes to the touchdowns to interceptions. So he's definitely a top 10 quarterback, but maybe top 7, maybe it's just, he's kind of iffy there. He's got to put it together in a great season next year, I think, where he limits the interceptions, throws more touchdowns, and obviously has less fumbles as well, for me to think he's up there with the likes of Mahomes.
I mean, it's about moments when you talk about quarterbacks, right? I mean, we rightly or wrongly, quarterbacks are judged on Super Bowl wins, but it's about moments more than anything. Like if there were no postseason games in the NFL, like if you only watched 17 regular season games, 18 regular season weeks, you'd think Dak Prescott was the top 3 quarterback in the NFL.
Sure you would.
Yeah.
But it's about moments. It is about the big moments and when the lights are bright and when more people are watching, and Dak hasn't gotten it done. Josh Allen has gotten to the divisional round plenty of times, but hasn't gotten it done in those moments. And it's not always fair. And I'm not a QB wins guy, but that's how, generally speaking, we judge quarterbacks and their greatness. And the guys who have had those great moments, Mahomes, Burrow as well, they, I think, automatically get put in a different tier, even if the physical skills are different. We'll keep breaking this game down more over the course of the show today and obviously all week long, including Friday when we make that trip up to Prairie Band Sportsbook. Again, if you maybe want to put a little money down on this contest between Chiefs and Bills coming up this weekend, great time to do so. Would you be visiting us on Friday? Check out the 10 betting kiosks, the awesome setup in the brand new Prairie Band Sportsbook at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort. We'll be there Friday from 2 until 4. And we'll continue talking Chiefs Bills. In fact, right after this break, when we hear from QB1, we'll talk to Patrick Mahomes. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes anyway, coming up on 580 Sports Talk. I think it's fair to say at this point, the Chiefs have kind of broken the rest of the AFC. Did you see what Deshaun Elliott, safety for the Dolphins, posted on his Instagram today?
I just did.
So Deshaun Elliott posted a picture of him eating a salad with an inordinate number of croutons on it.
There is no such thing as an inordinate number of croutons. That's a correct amount of croutons.
I like croutons. I'm pro crouton.
I'm a big crouton guy. I don't like as a general rule, not a huge fan of salad. Like, I'm not a rabbit. Why do I need to eat rabbit food?
Wow.
But
It's very Paula Dean of you.
yes, but with the appropriate amount of like croutons and other like salad accoutrements, I can make a salad edible.
So Elliot posts on his Instagram here. I pray by the grace of God on the Chiefs' downfall. I hope Buffalo beats them like they stole something. With just a picture of his lunch.
That sounds like something like a fan would post.
No, it really does. Like that sounds like something we would
That
say.
sounds like Thin Fan Since 83 on Twitter would post.
I get why. Like, because did they talk trash to you? Sorry, you lost. Like that's how it works, brother. You're rooting for your divisional rival?
Jay Fiedler Muse having a bad day on social media.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something. I have no good reason why I felt this way, but when circa 2002, I was a big Jay Fiedler fan. The quarterback battle post Marino of Fiedler versus Feely, that was a big deal, man. AJ Feely and Jay Fiedler, they had almost the exact same name, fighting for their Miami quarterback job.
Where is he eating? What kind of establishment is this where it looks like it's supposed to be fine dining, but also there's a iPhone plug outlet?
I think
right
he's at an
next to
airport.
Yeah,
You can see a suitcase
I
at the table next to him.
He's heading on vacation.
Yeah, he's going to Cancun.
Yeah, his flight to Cabo leaves in 30 minutes, but he's going to take a quick moment to bow his head before he eats this miserable-looking Caesar salad and say, Lord, in your name, please take some time out of all of the other things you are doing in your infinite wisdom and holiness and smite the Kansas City Chiefs.
Rooting for a divisional rival over the Chiefs because they got that ass beat on Saturday night.
I never understood the thought process behind praying for one team to win or one team to lose. If your children were playing each other, who would you root for? You'd probably stay out of it.
I would think so. He's got other more important things he's working on these days, to be honest with you. Speaking of the Chiefs, let's hear from QB1. Patrick Mahomes spoke a little bit earlier today. Let's send it out to One Arrowhead Drive.
Patrick, one of the big narratives that's been out there is that you haven't played a road playoff game. I'm sure you've heard that. Does that motivate you? I mean, it's not that people say you can't do it. They just want to see you do it. Is that, you take that as a challenge? Does it motivate you at all?
It kind of just is what it is. Obviously, I've been lucky enough to play a lot of games at home at Arrowhead Stadium. It kind of just everything's felt that way. But now we get a great opportunity to go on the road, play in a hostile environment, one that I haven't been able to play with fans in the stands. And even though I know it's going to be hostile and there are going to be people talking trash and everything like that, I'm excited for it because, I mean, it's one of the best environments in football. And you want to do that when you grow up watching these games is play in the best environments and see what it's like.
Patrick, you guys have been a pretty good road team since you've been here. Is there something you can put your finger on why you've been so efficient?
I think it's just Coach Reid, he preaches communication, and you have to have nonverbal communication whenever you're playing on the road. And we try to do a good job of that, of just being able to be on the same page, being able to execute at a high level, and then not letting anything be too positive or too negative, just kind of staying even keel and going about your business the right way. I think that's important on the road because it seems like one bad play is even magnified more and a big play is magnified more. And so just staying with the process is something that Coach Reid preaches, and we do a great job of it.
You probably grew up in an era where Brady and Manning were the kind of big quarterback battle. Do you have any sense that that's maybe what you and Josh Allen are becoming now?
Yeah, I mean, we've played in a lot of big games, but I mean, I think the great thing about the NFL now is there's a lot of quarterbacks that are really good, and not to say they weren't back in the day, but it seems like every year a lot of these guys are in the playoffs, playing in these big games on Sunday night, Monday night, whatever that is. And so I'm excited for the challenge. I mean, I grew up watching those games and remember how much memories I have from that, and so hopefully we can play in these great games as well and give memories to the kids that come up behind us.
Patrick, similarly to the first road game, you guys are statistically an underdog on Sunday. I know that's probably not something you think about, but what do you think about going into a game as a technical underdog?
Yeah, I mean, I go into every game with the same mindset, and that's to go out there and win. I mean, we understand that's going to be a great challenge. We understand it's going to be a hostile environment, and we're playing a great football team that's won 7 games in a row or whatever it is. And so we know it's going to be a great challenge for us, but our mindset is that we're going to prepare ourselves throughout this week to go out there and win a football game, and that never changes.
Patrick, you guys have leaned into Isaiah a lot of touches since you got back from that 2-game absence. Just how important has he become to everything that you guys are doing offensively?
Yeah, he's a great football player. I think leaning into him, leaning into our offensive line and what they do best is extremely important to our team. And then, I mean, how the defense is playing, giving them a rest and letting us kind of control the ball. I mean, it's just stuff you have to do in order to win football games in this league. It's not always going to be high flying, but we're going to do whatever we can to win the football game at the end of the day. And if that's running the ball, throwing the ball, whatever that is.
You and Josh seem like you have a good relationship off the field too, and obviously we've seen the golf matches and everything. And how does that play into this week? I mean, that relationship and your feelings, for him as just a friend.
Yeah, I know. I think everybody, you have friends with it. Whenever you, almost like when you compete against your friends, you almost want to win even more because of it. I'm Josh is a great dude. I respect the way he plays football and just the guy that he is. But it's like when two guys that are ultra competitive, that are friends off the field, go up against each other. We obviously both want to win because we know we see each other in the off season, and you want to have just a little bit of those bragging rights.
Patrick, on that, you have a chance to end his season 3 out of the last 4 years, and I heard you say earlier you kind of accept the villain role now. You're in that role again. So just on that, ending the Bills season 3 out of 4 years.
Yeah, the Bills are a great challenge. I think everybody understands that. They've gotten my number a lot of times. We've been lucky enough to get them in the playoffs, but they beat us earlier this year, so we understand that we're going to have to play our best football to win the game, especially at their place. But it's not about ending someone's season for us. It's about just advancing, trying to find a way to survive and advance and get to the next round. And whatever that takes this weekend, we're going to try to do and try to go out there and win a football game.
As you went back and studied Miami, as far as your controllables go, what was going on in the red zone? How can you guys be better there?
Yeah, I think it's just execution. I always say it, but in the red zone, everything gets so much more detailed, and you have to execute at a higher level. And obviously, we were close, but we didn't get in there. And so when we're playing a game like this, we got to find a way to turn those field goals into touchdowns in order to win. But at the same time, you have to rely on your defense to get stops, which they've been doing, and know the flow of the game. And so that's something that we obviously have emphasized these last few weeks. But I'm glad with how we're moving the football, but let's find a way to punch them in the end zone at the end of drives.
You guys had some issues earlier in the year with communication, getting plays in, getting ready to go. Looks like it's been cleaned up for sure the last few weeks. What did you put your finger on how to be able to kind of get that done?
Yeah, I think it's just – I think the coaches took it as a challenge. I think the players took it as a challenge to make sure that we're getting in and out of the huddle the right way, getting aligned the right way so we can go out there and be ourselves and play fast. And I think that just goes with everybody. Everybody kind of came together. We talked about it, got all of us on the same page. In these last few weeks, we've done a great job of getting in and out of the huddle and getting the plays directed in the right way.
Over the years, the Bills have really liked playing late season games, January games in Buffalo. I'm talking about generations. They felt like it gave them an advantage because of the weather. After what you guys went through, is there any weather that's going to intimidate you?
Yeah, cold's cold. I don't know. I haven't played in Buffalo in January, but I know it's a great environment. It's not negative 30 this week at least. I'm sure it'll be like negative 3 or 4, and it's going to be windy and cold. And we know it's a great challenge, but I don't know if it beats the cold that we played in this last week.
Patrick, it seems like during the playoffs, you scramble quite a bit. You've had a lot of big scrambles in the playoffs. Is that something? It just seems like in training camp, you can't really work on that, right? There's not a lot of quarterbacks getting hit. What is the process of trying to fine tune that skill?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to compete and trying to win the game. Some of those moments where you might slide, you kind of just go for it because you know that it's kind of you get your win or go home at the end of the day. And so I think you see Josh doing that same stuff as well. As when it gets to the playoffs, sometimes you got to risk it in order to try to win the game with your teammates. And you just got to know when that right time is to slide, when the right time is to try to go get those extra yards. And that's something that I've worked on my entire career.
Is there one that really stands out to you in the postseason, whether it's the Titans one or a different one?
Yeah, definitely the Titans one. That's one of my favorite plays of all time because it went from like a really good play to almost a terrible play because I almost fumbled, and then back to a great play again. And I was very tired, so I couldn't even celebrate. So that was definitely my favorite one. That one or the Super Bowl, obviously, with the big run in the Super Bowl to get us in field goal range. Those two were probably my favorite 2 runs in the playoffs.
Patrick, when you play a team twice, there's kind of a theory that maybe the team that loses might have it. If you're fairly evenly matched, which you guys are, but maybe the team that loses has a little bit of an advantage because the team that wins is obligated to do what worked the last time. Otherwise, maybe they get criticism. Why don't you win the ball again? Do you notice that there's an advantage one way or the other, being the team that won the first one or lost the first one?
I haven't. It's we've played here twice, but we've played here it seems like 100 times over the last 5 years. So it's a little bit of doing the same stuff and doing different stuff, and you want to do what you're best at, but you want to trick the defense a little bit. It's kind of and same for them, both sides. And so at the end of the day, you change it up a little bit. You go out there, try to do your best stuff, and they know you know them, and see who wins that day.
We all saw the thing with your helmet broke. Whatever happened to the helmet? Did you keep it? Did someone come take it?
So
Did you
they're
look at that piece?
Yeah, they're testing it right now. But I'm adamant on getting the helmet after. So it's definitely something that's cool. I'll be able to keep for a long time. But I mean, like they said, I mean, it did its job. I was perfectly fine after it. Obviously, they don't want it to crack, but it did absorb the hit. But definitely something that I'll keep, and I'll try to get this helmet to fit a little bit better. And we're finding a place to store the extra helmet for the next game.
Steve? Patrick, you and Rasheed have developed a lot of chemistry, seems like, in season. Just talk about that development and where you see his growth from early on to now.
Yeah, I think he just has a better understanding of the entire offense. He still is going to continue to get better and better and learn more and more. But he's willing to learn. I mean, he's always behind those veteran guys and asking questions, getting in the extra work. He's a great football player, and he has all the physical ability. And I think he has the mental attitude to go out there and get better and better every single week. And obviously, we need him to be great right now, but I think he'll continue to get even better after the season and into his rest of his career, because that's the type of attitude that he has.
That's Patrick Mahomes, QB1, speaking earlier today over at One Arrowhead Drive as we get ready for the divisional round of the postseason coming up on Sunday late afternoon. A game, of course, you'll be able to catch right here on your home for Chiefs football and the Chiefs Radio Network, 580 WIBW. Hey, Sky Moore back today.
Yeah, they opened up his practice window.
21 days. You know what 21 days will be, by the way?
It would be the Super Bowl, wouldn't it? Or the day after the Super Bowl?
4 days prior to the Super Bowl.
4 days before.
He could use the entire practice window and get back just in time to win another title.
He probably wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, sure. Hey, that's 3 weeks where he's not getting criticized. That sounds great to Sky Moore. We've got to get to a break. When we come back on the other side of this timeout, KU walloped Oklahoma State last night. We'll break it all down coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on this Wednesday afternoon. We'll talk a little K-State coming up next hour. Great win for the Cats. Kind of an improbable win, but a great win for the Cats yesterday over top 10 Baylor to reignite Scott Drew's fraud watch. Wanted to get to KU Oklahoma State first here, though. Two major takeaways for me from this. Really three, but two that stand out above the rest. Number one, Oklahoma State really is that bad. They are awful.
Yeah, they're really stinky. I thought West Virginia would be the worst team in the conference. They're at least gonna eventually get all of their actually good players to have played together, and they're gonna get Jesse Edwards healthy. And like West Virginia, they're not going to the tournament, but they're not going to be like easy to play against.
Yeah.
I think when the camera comes to fit, when the season comes around in February, I don't know where our camera came from. I think I was looking at my camera,
looking right at the camera.
Blurted out the word. Yeah, I'm just gonna say what I see. Water bottle.
It's new because you on the old camera, it was like not in your direct line of sight. Now to look at me, it's right in front of your face.
Yes, it is. It's taking some adjusting. Anyhow, I think West Virginia, come February, will be tough to play, could beat some good teams in this league. I don't know how Oklahoma State's beating anyone other than it's college basketball and stuff happens, and there will be nights where they catch the high end of shooting variance, perhaps, or their opponents catch the low end. But that team, what do they do well?
It felt like even when they would make something work offensively, like they would score, it felt like an accident. Like nothing actually felt like it was intended to work the way it did. They're bad. I mean, we went over it yesterday. They just don't really have a lot of talent. I would have loved for Bryce Thompson to have been better than he is, but he's not. Like, he got 20 points last night. Does he do anything that strikes fear in your heart? Like, do you see Bryce Thompson on the other side of the floor and go, shoot, we got to lock that guy up?
No, he's a fine Big 12 player, which you'd hope that would be a bit of a higher ceiling for a 5-star recruit.
Yeah.
But no, he's nothing more than a fine program player in the Big 12. And like, if they had 5 more like him, they'd probably be a better team, but
score a bunch.
Yeah, they would score. But I don't know. Like, Jake used to always ask, what do you hang your hat on? Right?
Yep.
Like, every team's got to have the thing that they do that is the reason that they win. Like, what do you hang your hat on? We're going to talk when we get to K-State. I think they found the thing that they're going to hang their hat on this season. What is Oklahoma State hanging Pistol Pete's cowboy hat on? I legitimately don't know.
Don't know. I don't think they know, which is an even bigger problem. And again, probably why Mike Boynton will be coaching at like Eastern Michigan next year.
He's going to be a valued assistant at a high major program next season.
He probably will be.
Yeah.
And I think when you're top scorer, all he can do is score. That doesn't help your team. I mean, he had 1 rebound and 2 assists. You need to help your team some other way, even though you're the top scorer.
Well, and that's why he ended up transferring out of KU in the first place, is because it was like, hey, like, he's got natural talent and offensive gifts, obviously, but there's just not. The funny thing is, and I know it's been multiple years since he's transferred now, but he would actually be extremely valuable off the bench for KU right now as the 6th scoring option.
Yeah.
That would be very nice to have, but, so be it. As for the KU side of things, the other big takeaway from this, and I had this moment, KU was already up by 20. It was 6 minutes left in the game or something. Hunter Dickinson takes a long 2. He's like 3 feet off the elbow, just inside the arc, steps back, takes a long 2. And I put this on Twitter, and I thought it out loud. I said, that is so unfair. He can make a shot from everywhere. Everywhere in the front court, he can make that shot. And that is why, you want to talk about hanging your hat on something? KU can hang its head on the fact that 1 through 5, our top 5, is the most talented group in the Big 12. We have the most college basketball skill. Not the most NBA players, but the most college basketball skill of any team in the league. And as long as we get competence from our role players to give them a breather, to just stay afloat while they're on the bench, or when teams send doubles and triples after Hunter, or if it's an inefficient shooting night for Kevin McCullough, that KJ can score for you. And he has done a great job of that recently. That DeJuan Harris isn't going to turn the ball over 15 times and is going to score at least 6+ points a game. If you can do that, this team is a national championship contender. And we, granted, grading for scale based on who they were playing, but we saw that last night.
I just want to say that I am very excited to continue to watch the Furfening continue.
He's awesome.
Johnny Furphy, it's like the last 2 games they put him in the starting lineup and he realized, hey, wait a minute, this must mean I'm good. Like, if I'm starting for the Kansas Jayhawks, then I must be good at basketball. So I'm going to go be good at basketball. He couldn't miss. 5 for his first 5 from the field.
I believe so, yeah.
Knocking down threes, hitting shots, making plays in transition.
Going after rebounds.
Fits like a glove. Like, it just, now the starting 5 makes sense. And I know it weakens your bench, but come
Do you
March,
really need your bench?
Come March, you don't. We've seen that. We know that in March, the winning formula is to have 5 really good guys and a 6th or a 7th that can give them a rest. You don't need a whole lot else other than that.
So we're 10 weeks into the college basketball season, 10 so far. And I would say for freshmen, unless you are Zion or you are Andrew Wiggins and Joel Embiid, you're that kind of freshman. What would you say? It takes a couple of weeks to kind of get acclimated to the game.
Yeah.
The speed of college basketball versus AAU. Johnny Furphy missed essentially 3 full weeks of practice with shin splints during warm-ups.
And he got there late too. Like he was a late
a summer edition. Yeah. So you have a late start behind all your other teammates to just being in the United States. You miss essentially 3 full weeks of practice due to shin splints. And Self said that, like, hey, we can't rely on Johnny right now because he's not practicing. And if you're not practicing, how can we rely on you early in the season? So that accounts for a slow start and being behind the 8 ball for 3 weeks. And now we're in conference play, and all of a sudden he looks like he could be your 3rd best player. That sounds like it's right on schedule for what KU would have liked. And had he not missed all that time, you're probably looking at around like the Mizzou and Indiana games when he really could have taken off, when at the time he was not quite ready like he is right now.
No, he was overwhelmed by it. Yeah. You could tell that the speed of the game was a little too much for him. And now the comfort level is higher. So now he feels like he can go out, he can take some chances. He's not afraid to shoot because he's not afraid to miss. He's not afraid that if he doesn't make the right play in this scenario, he's going to get yanked out of the game for Jamari McDowell or Elmarco Jackson or whoever. No, he's in. And he's
the half bath.
Sorry, my computer was on there. My apologies.
Continue. He understands that he has that starting role and he's going to be in that starting role. So it gives him the freedom to make a mistake. Sometimes it's the best thing you can give a young player is that freedom to make a mistake without looking over their shoulder, because then they get to the point where they find out how good they can be. And that's what we're seeing. And what we're going to, I think, continue to see over this next little while is just how good Johnny Furphy can be. And I just can't imagine that maybe you're not really in on college basketball yet. You kind of dial in around league play and you haven't watched a ton of Kansas. You didn't dial in on the Maui or the Champions Classic, and you turn on a KU game and you turn it on and you see a rangy white dude hitting threes and slashing to the basket and thinking, wait a minute, how did they get another one?
Yeah, that's true though. Look, it has been incredible what KU has done. And, you always say that, you don't know that it was you wish you knew it was the good old days before they were the good old days, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I've said this before, and it's true, and I hope KU fans listen to this and also know it. You are living in the good old days. You are living in it right now, so appreciate it, because it was big men forever. It was always big men that were the best of the best for KU. All the great, and a lot of those trained by Danny Manning, of course.
LaFrance, Collison, Aldridge,
T-Rob.
Yeah.
With different kind of big.
The Morai, the Morris twins.
Withy. I know you're a big Jeff Withy fan.
Love that guy. Sasha Khan.
Yeah, like there was always KU's thing. And KU's had great ones. Hunter Dickinson now transferred in, Doak, obviously. But then it was wings. It was point guards. It was Frank and Devontae. It was Devon Dotson. Then it was Ochai and Jalen and now McCullough and now Furphy, the wings. Everything is there. And that's why I still say this team, no matter what the issues are in terms of depth, 1 through 5, I still think this is the best team in the country. I really do. Because you look at the other best teams, Arizona's got flaws. Purdue has one player, one guy who is decent in Lawyer, and then just praying that the other guys don't screw up and get the ball to Edey.
The UCF game showed that they're not good enough to go win a tight game in a hostile environment when all their good players don't play good, for lack of a better way to put it. Maybe that's the least grammatically appealing way to put it. But their good players have to play good. The good news is when your good players are great, they play good a lot more often.
Yep.
And KU's got players who way more often than not are going to play A-grade basketball. And when they all do on the same night, and when Furphy starts to play grade A basketball, you get what you get last night, which was a game that was not in doubt from about 18 minutes left in the second half onward. And maybe that's generous to Oklahoma State.
The UCF game was an example of no one playing well. The Oklahoma State game was an example of everything clicking. That is what the ideal of this KU team is. Also, Nick Timberlake dunked, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah, he did.
We've got to get to a break for the news. We'll come on back, talk some K-State hoops on 580 Sports Talk. final 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and of course on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, the name of our YouTube channel and stream. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis here with you. We'll get some K-State coverage in just a moment. Big time win for the Cats over Baylor yesterday. We'll play some One Gotta Go, and we'll hear from Andy Reid all coming up this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. If you're watching on YouTube, and again, we would love for you to go subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's called 580 Sports Talk. Just head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. Easiest way to find us. You'll notice at the moment, it's just Spencer and I who are on camera. Oh, geez, excuse me. Dan's computer crapped out on him.
So it needed an update. We were moving a little slow, I noticed. And so I just thought I'd hit the updates. And there must have been a lot of updates. I'm looking at it, says 100% complete. Typically you think 5 minutes is probably enough to get that done.
Yeah.
And no.
That's an old machine, for what it's worth. That one's still working hard. Most of our computers in the station, well, not most, many of them have been updated to newer Windows computers. That one still got the old school tower. Yeah. Like my computer over here, I've just got a little box. It's like the size of a big CD drive.
Yeah.
Yours has a whole tower.
Yes, it does. So that means to our video viewers, I'm the disembodied voice.
Yes.
That's
so he's
pretty
here,
cool. Yeah.
but just not visually here. Right
now.
now.
I'm about to be though. Give me some time. I'm looking at Google Chrome right now. We're gonna be in for the people who listen the old fashioned way, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online 580WIBW.com. They're like, we don't care about any of this.
Yeah.
We're not watching you on video.
Yeah, if you're a traditional radio listener, which I know is the majority of you who are listening.
We are always the disembodied voice.
Yeah.
If we are coming through the radio.
You are also pleasantly and blissfully unaware of the other various technical difficulties we've had with our YouTube stream today, which was like 10 minutes of not hearing anything
It was
on
a
the
rough
YouTube stream.
10-minute ride of ambient sound and probably me telling Spencer in the background, hey, dude, shut up. They can hear us.
So while that technical difficulty gets fixed, I do want to remind you about our live broadcast from Prairie Band Sportsbook coming up on Friday. We'll be there live from 2 until 4. A short show that day because we've got coverage of the Topeka Invitational Tournament. But we'll be there from 2 until 4 at the brand new Prairie Band Sportsbook. It's awesome. It's right next to the Three Fires restaurant inside the casino. Awesome place to go watch a game, play some bets, hang out. And that's what we'll be doing from 2 until 4 coming up on Friday. Additionally, on Saturday, Prairie Band is holding its second chance drawing. So if you drop a non-winning ticket into their big old drum of entries, and it's got to be a bet of at least $20, but a $20 losing ticket or more, you put it in the drum, and then on Saturday, they will be drawing winners for 5 different prizes, including autographed items from Hall of Fame coach Bill Self, from one of the greatest athletes to ever live, Bo Jackson, from maybe the greatest tight end of all time, Travis Kelce, plus tickets near the floor. I mean, we're talking low in the bowl at Bramlage Coliseum. We were told where the tickets are. They are good seats at a K-State basketball game later on this year, and tickets to Sporting Kansas City versus Inter Miami MLS action, which will feature Lionel Messi at Arrowhead Stadium. All of those are up to be drawn for on Saturday. So stop on in, come visit us on Friday, place a bet. If it does not win, you can place your losing ticket in their drawing drum, and you have a chance to win all of those prizes. You must write your name and player ID on the back of the bet slip to have a valid entry, and you must be present to win on Saturday between 12:30 and 1:30. And again, we're looking forward to seeing you guys at Prairie Band Sportsbook coming up on Friday from 2 until 4. Clayton in the YouTube comments, he says, oh, cool, the TIT is this weekend. Yeah, it is. Starting tomorrow. We've got 3 games on our airwaves coming up tomorrow. Our coverage will start right at 4 o'clock. So we might miss the first little piece of game number 2 of the day, but we will go live to Dan on site at Hayden High School in the Butel Center for the TIT coming up tomorrow and on Friday.
Yeah, so the first game of the day, which will not be on our airwaves, but the action starts 2 o'clock at the Butel Center. It's going to be Highland Park taking on Lawrence. Then at 3:45, it'll be the first game that we carry, Topeka West taking on Shawnee Mission North. The third game, Topeka High against Wichita Northwest. And then the finale, Hayden and Lansing, the showcase game of the night at 7:15 to round out the evening. So we'll have the last 3 of those games, and then we'll have on Friday, we'll have the losers of the Wichita Northwest, Topeka High, and Hayden Lansing games. That'll be at 3:45. Then the winners between Highland Park and Lawrence and Topeka West and Shawnee Mission North, that game. And then the finale will be the winners of the Hayden Lansing and Topeka High Wichita Northwest games.
And we will, regardless of who is playing, have coverage of those 3 games on both days.
Yes.
So we are very excited about that. And again, all that action, triple header Thursday and Friday from the Topeka Invitational Tournament right here on 580 WIBW with Dan Lucero heading up our coverage. One of the best events all year long in the capital city.
Yeah,
it is such a blast.
Really fun thing to be a part of. And, all the city schools that kind of rotate getting to host it do a great job. I know that the folks at Hayden will do a terrific job. The Butel Center is such a great place. Great atmosphere for high school basketball. So it is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And don't forget, girls tournaments coming up next week. Looking forward to that as well. We'll be at the Thunderbird Classic.
That's
coming up
right.
this year.
We'll be at the T-Bird Classic at Shawnee Heights Thursday and Friday action next week.
Yeah, so all sorts of great high school basketball action coming up here on our airwaves over the next 2 weeks. Last night here on our airwaves, you heard Kansas State men's basketball knock off those frauds from Waco, Texas, the Baylor Bears. I mean, they are good. They are talented. We talked about that yesterday. That's a tough win, man. Then that is a good win. Vegas knows. We were saying all day, why is it K-State favored by 1.5? Is it just because they're at home? Maybe it was, but they ended up covering that spread. They win the game. Gritty at the end. RJ Jones, the big 3. I know we'll get to him specifically in a moment. Arthur Kaluma with the 4-point play. And I almost screamed it when Abby and I were watching the game because we flipped over from the KU game and said, no, we got to watch the end of K-State to catch the very tail end of this because it's a great game. What is Baylor doing fouling Kaluma on that shot? Just a very dumb play.
It feels as though, and this is strictly anecdotal. I don't have any stats to back this up. I just, based on college basketball games that I watch, and certainly this is a sample size skewed by having watched West Virginia play and watching Raekwon battle, think he's Reggie Miller and kick his leg into every shooter or everybody trying to defend him when he shoots from further than 5 feet away. That being said, it sure feels like there are a lot more fouls of 3-point shooters these days.
Yes. I would agree with that.
Like that is something that happens certainly far too often for coaches' taste, but far too often for my taste as a consumer of college basketball. So I had 3 games going last night. I had 3 TVs. I had the KU game going. I had the K-State game going. I had Nuggets Sixers going, the NBA game. So I enjoyed the college action more than I personally enjoyed the NBA action last night. But like watching an NBA game next to a college game is a very jarring experience. Like I like college basketball, but I get why people don't. And I like the NBA, but I also get why people don't.
I've said for a couple of years now, they're 2 different sports. Like they're both basketball, but what it takes to have a good and entertaining and competitive college game and what it takes to have that in the NBA, they're 2 completely different things. And a buddy of mine who's a KU fan, we went to KU together, and he's loves KU, but he's an NBA guy first and is a huge Bulls fan. Unfortunately for him, really a character flaw at this point. I made that comment on Twitter last year. He goes, hey, what do you mean by this? Because he thought I was saying, I don't know, something out of pocket about the NBA. I'm like, no, the skill it takes to have a good NBA team and a good NBA game is so uniquely different than what it takes to be successful in college. Like you can't compare the 2. Like I almost am at a point where I don't want to talk about, well, NBA fans versus college fans. No, they're different sports at this point. Like, if you have one guy on a college team who can make shots like NBA players, you're a national championship contender. And UConn had like 2 of them last year.
That's the starkest difference is an open 3-pointer being in the NBA. That's, well, let's go walk down to the other end now because that's going in. And in college being like, I don't know if that's going to go in. Baylor and K-State last night combined to go 12 of 51 from the 3-point arc.
Ew.
Like, if that happened in an NBA game, you'd say, ew, revolting, demote both of these teams to the G League.
No, a coach gets fired. Like, if you had a game in which 2 teams went 12 of 51, someone's getting fired. Or it's the Pistons.
In the college game, it's like, man, they're flying around, they're contesting shots, and these guys just aren't as good as shooters. If they were, they'd be in the NBA.
So, I think I'm a college fan over NBA. The only time I ever watched the NBA is like maybe on Christmas Day. But now the NFL is like 3 games on Christmas Day, so I kind of just jump over that,
right?
Or the playoffs. Like I kind of tune in at the end of the season because I just don't find it fun to watch. I don't know, the Lakers kill the Magic or something.
It's such a different style of Like, if you are watching just to watch, like, I want to see the best athletes on earth do a crazy thing every night. Like, you should watch the NBA, because what they do is
they don't play defense.
It's outrageous, the shot. I mean, I don't even know if it's a defense thing, because that's always been, always, but certainly recently been a criticism of it. Like, how do you guard Luka Doncic? How do you guard Nikola Jokic? Like, what do you do? He's not even he's a great athlete, but relative to the guys around him, not a great athlete. And he can do things that you just say, how?
Yeah.
How in the world, what law of physics are you bending to make that happen? Whereas in college, not that the NBA is not a team game, but so much of it is you need all 5 pieces working in sync.
In college, you watch a guy take like 7 hesitation dribbles and shoot a contested 28-foot 3-point range from the wing, and you think, that's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. This is a crime against basketball. To jail immediately. And then the NBA, when Luka Doncic does, it's like, oh, that's a good shot because it's going in. Like it is. It's just it's different. And the atmosphere, obviously, in the crowd is a big part of the appeal to me of college basketball. It was a great crowd last night at Bramlage Coliseum. Terrific crowd.
Awesome crowd.
Great energy.
Tang shouted him out after the game. Said, hey, it's cold out there, and you guys waited to get in. That was a big deal, and I think that played a big role.
Jerome Tang challenges the crowd, challenges K-State fans. Get there, be early, be in your seats, make some noise, bring the energy. And it's not just a challenge, there's a promise that comes with that. He says, essentially, if you do that, we're going to give you, he said this after the game, we're going to give you an effort that is worthy of your energy, worthy of your time investment and your energy investment into us. And Kansas State absolutely did that last night. I'm going to take a moment here to pat myself on the back for a few things.
Please do.
That I said about yesterday's game ended up being exactly right. Number one, as Vance helpfully points out in the YouTube comments, I did say in the final word that I thought K-State was going to win the game. I didn't have a lot of basis on which I thought Kansas State was going to win that game beyond it's a road game. They're a favorite for a reason I can't quite pin down. 3-point variance is a real thing. Maybe Baylor doesn't shoot it well, and this is a night where K-State shoots it a little better. Well, yeah, that's what happened. Baylor shot 5 of 28 from 3. The number 1 3-point shooting team in the country missed 23 of their 28 3-pointers last night, and some good looks, too, especially down the stretch.
I mean, they shot 76 times.
Yes.
And they only made 25.
They had 23 offensive rebounds in the game. They annihilated K-State on the offensive glass.
That's nuts.
Yeah, and still somehow didn't win the game. So I did pick K-State to win. They won. So pat on the back for that. Second thing I want to give a pat on the back to myself for. I said Dorian Finister's minutes were going to be really important in this game. Dorian Finister was a plus 15
huge
in 19 minutes. And now I know plus minus isn't everything. A lot of that plus minus was him on the floor late after Cam Carter fouled out. And so K-State going on that run to eventually win the game in overtime was part of that plus 15, but still.
But he was part of it.
Yes, still, plus 15. Scored 5 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, handed out 3 assists, didn't turn the ball over, played good defense. That's what you want. On a night where K-State struggled to rebound the ball, he had 5 boards off the bench, including 2 offensive. Exactly what you're looking for out of your 6th man. And right now, he is the 6th man. I said the other bench guys had to produce Colbert. Why am I forgetting his first name? Jarrell. I wanted to call him Jared. Jarrell Colbert played really well in his 17 minutes last night. Had 6 points, made both his shots, made both his free throws, blocked a shot. He's giving Kansas State, he wasn't great on the glass last night, but he's giving Kansas State some really good interior minutes. And RJ Jones, again, guy who's barely played, the confidence to shoot that ball out of the corner and knock it down and make it a 2-point game with a minute to go. That was a must-score possession for Kansas State. And they got not just a bucket, but they got a 3-point basket on a night where those were hard to come by from a guy who hadn't scored since the North Alabama game. I don't know if you remember when that was. Early December.
Well, I do. Also, the TV broadcast team wanted to make sure every time he touched the ball that they reminded us of that.
It was a very bad broadcast last night. Chris Spatola should be tried at The Hague for crimes against broadcasting.
I saw Mark Neely was doing the game. I thought, wow, they moved Neely to the plus. Dang, that's a downgrade. Then I saw his partner. I thought, oh, yeah. But no. I used your line. I told Abby they should have put this on ESPN minus. She thought it was very funny.
That broadcast crew for sure. But anyway, so the bench did their thing, and I'll pat myself on the back for that. Larger point I want to make here about Kansas State. This was the first time watching them all year that I felt like, okay, there's a real talent deficiency here. Like they don't have guys like Baylor's got guys. Baylor had dudes who could go get buckets. Like they had Jalen Bridges who could get to the rim and score, and RJ Dennis could get to the rim, even though he was 2 for 15 from the field. Oh my God, I didn't realize he was 2 for 15 from the field, but he could get to the rim, right? And Langston Love was really the guy who was best for Baylor coming off the bench at getting to the rim and scoring. They had bucket getters. They had big dudes who were skilled and athletic and bouncy. Yves Messi had 7 offensive rebounds of his 11 boards. That was the first time in Big 12 play this year I watched K-State and go, yeah, they don't have the talent that this team does. And I didn't ever feel last year, I mean, they went to the Elite Eight. They had 2 All-Americans. You never felt like, oh, they just don't have enough. They don't have enough firepower to hang with this team. They don't have enough guys, dudes in the parlance of Jerome Tang, to hang with this other team. I really felt like that watching them against Baylor last night. Watching how much of a struggle it looked like for them to generate offense in the half court or generate a good shot. How often they were settling for a late shot clock contested 3 or turning the ball over. They had 17 turnovers last night. It felt like Baylor was the better team, and eventually the lid was going to come off the rim and they were going to win the basketball game. And K-State just wouldn't let that happen.
You know what it reminded me of, and a much different kind of scoring game and different how we got to that point. But that reminds me of the first KU K-State game from last year at Bramlage Coliseum, where K-State, again, different because K-State controlled the entire first half of that game. But how many times, either in Lawrence or in Manhattan in history, has KU put together a run, gotten somebody going? Jalen Wilson got crazy hot in the second half of that game, and okay, he was in a ton of foul trouble. But at the very end, after KU had put together that run, K-State kept slamming the door back on him. And every time it got close, got within 1, KU pulls right there. K-State would slam the door on him, got it to overtime, ended up winning the game. This one, again, the scoring felt different. The way we got to that point, it felt a little bit different. But it was K-State. Every time Baylor looked like it had an answer, K-State was able to counterpunch right back and was able to get those contributions from guys who you normally wouldn't see it from, like R.J. Jones, like a big day for Jarrell Colbert, or Arthur Kaluma, who the biggest worry, you've heard me say this countless times already this season, from the moment he transferred in from Creighton. Can you get him to be fully focused in all the key moments for an entire duration of a season? Because spacing out and not putting forward 100% effort all the time was a major concern for him when he was at Creighton. That was the biggest concern for him when he was at Creighton. 8 points in the game going into that final 4-point play. And he's got the confidence to come up and make that shot in that moment, which he has not always been willing to do.
It takes him an eternity to load up that 3 ball, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Looks like a trebuchet. Like you have to pull it back and then let it rip. And boy, what a huge shot. The shot of the season to this point. I don't think anybody, even the most optimistic K-State fan with the roster on hand, would have said this team would be 3-1 after 4 games in conference play.
You know, it's funny, the talk about all the, how hard it is to win on the road in the Big 12 and how every Baylor's lost one, KU lost one to a straight up bad team. It is hard to win on the road. The same, you can kind of flip that around, and then you're out of the Big 12 race if you lose at home. Like, you've got to defend home court because everyone is losing on the road. It is so cutthroat there. It's going to be so top heavy in the league this season. They're not even top heavy, but the top half is going to be so good. You have to defend home court. So for K-State to be able to do that again against that caliber of team, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal, and there's really no understating it.
They're banking wins right now in the league, and they're going to need to do that. They've got Oklahoma State on Saturday. That's a game they ought to win. Oklahoma State's miserable. It's another home game for K-State. That should be a game the Cats win. After that, listen to this gauntlet that K-State's, it's the Big 12.
Right.
It's always a gauntlet. But this is what awaits K-State after they play Oklahoma State on Saturday. At Hilton Coliseum, at Houston, at home against Oklahoma, then on the road in Stillwater. If there's an easy road game in the league, I guess it's that. But still, it's a road game in the Big 12.
Hard to play in a wrestling gym.
Yeah, it is. Home against Kansas, Sunflower Showdown's on February 5th. Then they go to BYU. Then TCU comes to Bramlage. Then they go to Texas. Then BYU comes to Bramlage. And then they get West Virginia February 26th. That is the next time after Saturday that they play an unranked team at home.
That's crazy.
So
that is crazy.
That's the league, right? But they have now banked 3 wins already, and they moved themselves with a quad 1 win last night closer to being on the fringes of NCAA tournament considerations. Joe Lunardi's bracketology has them in the field as of today, where that was not the case going into this week.
Where does he have them?
Dayton.
Dayton. Okay.
I think they're one of the last 4 in.
If you can go, all right. So how many? I'm sorry. How many games is that in total through that gauntlet you just mentioned, including the Middle Oklahoma State games? You're looking at 9 games in there, or would it even be 10? 9 or 10 games? Can you go 500 in that stretch?
Yeah, count 10 with the Oklahoma State game coming up. Like their next 10. Yeah.
Their next 10. Can you go 5-5?
If they can, they're going to the tournament.
That's a top 8 seed. Like, look at the depth of this conference. That is if you can go through that stretch and you end the year, I mean, you still got to play KU and Iowa State in your last 2 games, but you end the year, it's not awful.
No, West Virginia, you go to Cincinnati, you go to KU. You're losing.
It is
that.
what it is. Yeah.
That's history suggests you're going to lose that game. And then home against Iowa State to wrap up, and it's March. So that should be a much more beatable Iowa State team,
obviously,
than they are present.
Yeah, you're 2 months past the prime of TJ Otzelberger when you get to early March.
It is such a tough stretch. And I have to ask you this question, Brendan. Are you still in tune with the fact that it's not a round robin in the Big 12 this year? Because I am constantly having to remind myself.
Well, I just had to check the schedule because I was going to say it's good to get the first one against Baylor, but it's only one against Baylor. So the fact that you then banked that win is a huge deal.
Yes.
To not have a split possible going down to Waco, that's a big deal. So for K-State, as much as that is unfortunate that you have that kind of stretch coming up in January and February, the fact you only have to play Baylor once is actually a huge deal. You get BYU twice, and BYU's ranked right now. We have no idea what BYU is going to be in February. No idea what they're going to look like after this grind of a schedule.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one. That is massive for Kansas State to get that win. And again, if you can get those moments from Kaluma, if you can get anything off the bench, it's a very high school basketball kind of minute split for K-State right now. All of your veterans are starting, and all of your first and second year guys are coming off the bench.
Right.
It was all, I think, freshmen and redshirt freshmen, right? Or first year guys who transferred in who came off the bench last night.
Yeah, Colbert, I think, is a redshirt sophomore, but Jones, freshman, Buddy Rich played some minutes as a freshman, and Finisher's a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, it's like all the veterans are starting, all you guys come off the bench, but if they get okay contributions, they're going to be just fine. And this will be a tournament team. I'll say it right now. If they're going to play like that, they're easily a tournament team and probably a top 8 seed. We owe you a break. When we come back on the other side of this timeout, we've got one guy to go, and we'll still hear from Andy Reid later on this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. One gotta go time on 580 Sports Talk. The concept is simple. We're going to give you 4 choices, and you're going to tell me one's got to go. I'll go first, and I'm going to give you we always do this. It's definitely cheating, but I'm going to do it anyway. We're doing the reverse, so you got to pick one, okay? Actually, no, I take it back. We're going to play by the regular rules. I'm going to give you the 4 next wave of newcomers into the Big 12. It's not the group that came this year, but we're looking at Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado. In terms of total athletic department, so men's and women's basketball, football, the administrative problems they bring, all the other non-rev sports, all of that, you got to tell one, you know what, never mind, we take back our invitation. Who are you leaving out?
Arizona's broke.
Yeah, that's what inspired this. You knocked them out because they have no money.
Arizona might be having to shed some sports, and they come in obviously with a tremendous basketball reputation, football program that even with the loss of Jed Fish as head coach is experiencing some positive momentum. It's going to be a preseason top 25 team next year. But like their long-term outlook is interesting if they don't make some money, raise some money. That being said, it's still Arizona State for me. I will not be considering Arizona State.
I think Colorado, because how long is Dion going to stay there?
Are you a Coach Prime guy? Are you pro or anti-Coach Prime?
I'm kind of in the middle right now.
Yeah.
But how long is he going to stay there? When is he going to jump to a bigger program?
Well, we're not just talking about football here. Remember, we are talking about basketball, where the Buffaloes, actually, I'm being told that the Buffs are a colossal disappointment with 2 future NBA players on their roster this year and do not look like they're going to make the tournament for Tad Boyle.
Women's basketball, Colorado.
Number 3 in the country.
Awesome.
Lady Buffs are cruising.
I think Colorado is a fascinating one, though, because, football's the driver for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, well, Dion has gotten them to another level in terms of attention and the recruiting is there. Will they be good? Hard to say, but there's more attention, more eyeballs on them. But what happens when he does leave? Like, is it sustainable?
That's my point is their whole thing going to be sustainable? Because they're record-breaking numbers for season tickets for football, which helps, obviously, the athletic department in revenue coming in. When he decides to jump to that SEC job, probably, or a hired Big 12 job, potentially, you never know where he would jump to. That might not be there, so then their revenue might not be that of Big 12 teams.
As I'm thinking about it, here's a question for you: what was Colorado softball's record last year?
3-38.
It's a trick question. They don't have a softball program. They also don't have a baseball program. So, no bat and ball sports at the University of Colorado.
Oh, man, that would have been a blast, though, to play baseball and softball in Boulder.
Yeah.
You're telling me.
That would have been awesome.
There are only 2 Division I baseball programs in the state of Colorado, Air Force and Northern Colorado.
Interesting.
Both the flagship universities, Colorado State, don't have one.
That's crazy.
But that's something to consider where, you wrap around into the spring sports. Arizona, great baseball and softball tradition. Arizona State, unparalleled baseball tradition, though the program has slipped in recent years. Colorado doesn't give you anything in the spring. Like cross country, I guess. That's not really a spring sport, I don't believe. Track, I suppose, is part of that.
Yeah.
But they're not giving you a lot in the spring. And I might have to. It's my home state's flagship school. I can't kick them out. I'm still saying Arizona State, but I'm saying there are compelling reasons to say, man, what is Colorado bringing if football and basketball aren't good?
Yeah, to me,
that was my main point. I didn't even realize they didn't have baseball and softball.
Yeah, I didn't either.
You just look on their athletic webpage and you're like, well,
I think it's
once Dion's gone, where are they making money from?
It's one of the smallest athletic departments in terms of sports offered, major sports offered. Vance asked, do they have a good hockey team? No, that is, you are perhaps thinking of Colorado College, who has also not been good in the last decade.
They do have a skiing program, which obviously not in the Big 12 though.
They whip. They're awesome.
I believe that. For me, it comes down to either Colorado or Arizona State, and I'm going to lean with tradition. And I want KU and K-State and Iowa State to play Colorado again.
Yes,
because they played for 60 years. So that's the tiebreaker for me.
I respect that. All right. One got to go. NFC quarterbacks in the divisional round. That is Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield. One got to go.
Jared Goff.
Oof. The only one of them that's played in a Super Bowl.
He just doesn't bring intrigue to me. I mean, I think their system in Detroit's very good.
Yeah, I think that's the same reason I might go again. I hate saying this because the Packers are playing them coming up this weekend, but I think I'm going Purdy. And it's not even an anti-Purdy thing, but I'm not kicking out Jordan Love. I'm not kicking out Baker Mayfield. And Jared Goff, despite the fact that, so much of it is Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell's offense, and a lot of it is the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown has become a top 10 wide receiver since he got drafted in the 4th round a couple years ago. They've got good running backs. They've got maybe the best offensive line in the NFL. But he's making plays, man. And if you're asking me, I think Goff and Purdy have a lot of similarities. Well, Goff's been to the big game before. Like you said, he's played in a Super Bowl, not with this team, but and he's playing better than he did at that time. So I think I'd keep Goff. I think I'd dump Purdy.
Yeah, we've seen Mayfield and Goff be able to make it shake in multiple systems. They've been to playoff games, won playoff games with 2 different teams. That's not something every quarterback can say that they've done. Jordan Love looks like a top 10 quarterback in the league right now. I don't think I will ever say that about Brock Purdy. I just don't. So, yeah, Purdy got to go.
Packers defensive lineman Devontae Wyatt today said that if they get pressure on Brock Purdy, he's going to turn the ball over, and he gets really thrown off if you get pressure in his face. Out of curiosity, do you know who led the NFL in passer rating against pressure this year?
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy. Not great. Watch the film, guys. Spencer, what you got for us?
I don't got one right now.
All right.
That's
fine. No, we owe you a commercial break anyway.
I will have one next week.
All right. Perfect. Get working on that. We're gonna hold. You're going first next week. We're gonna hold you to that. We're gonna take a quick break here. When we come back on the other side of this timeout, we'll hear from Andy Reid here on 580 Sports Talk. Don't forget to come join us up at Prairie Band Sportsbook, the brand new and only locally owned sportsbook in Kansas. Grand opening on Friday. We will be there for 580 Sports Talk, the whole crew from 2 until 4, leading you into the Topeka Invitational Tournament. One of the most extensive betting catalogs in the state. The book right next to the Three Fire Steakhouse with phenomenal amenities both in the book and around the resort. That's, again, 2 to 4 at Prairie Band Sportsbook, and their grand opening on Friday here for the program. Right now, though, let's hear from Andy Reid. Big Red spoke earlier today, previewing the matchup against the Buffalo Bills. Let's hear what Big Red had to say previewing this weekend's matchup.
All right. As far as injuries go, Cam Jones will not practice today. Nadi won't practice today. Everybody else will be out there. Sky will return to practice. Tony will be out there, and Ross will be out there. So look forward to the challenge of playing the Bills. We obviously know they're a good football team and very well coached. Sean does a great job with them, and Joe Brady's taken over the offensive side. I believe our game was the first game that he did it, and he's continued to do a nice job there with the offense. So, again, with that, time's yours.
Andy, a lot of your defensive success this year has been because of continuity, but obviously Edwards, Tranquil, and Amenahue have made a big difference. I wonder if you could just elaborate on that, with how they helped.
Yeah, they both have played well for us, and continue to play well for us. So that, but obviously with Bolton going down, Drew stepped in and one of the leadership positions, the transmitter from the front side to the back side, and did a great job. And then Charles, mixing him in there with that D line, I think has been a nice addition. Hat goes off to Brett for the job that he did bringing those guys in here. So his insight was spot on.
Sorry, I meant to mention Edwards also, just that
Yeah.
in terms of also.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, he's a heck of a football player, and really that's what he is. You're going to look at him, and you're not going to say he's the fastest guy, the biggest guy, the strongest guy, or anything. He just knows how to play the game. He's got great instincts. Smart kid. So tough.
Coach Reid, you talked about Drew Tranquil. He didn't play when y'all played here earlier in the season. Having him back, especially spying Josh Allen or keying on Allen, how big would that be for you?
Yeah, the more we have, the better, right? So yeah, no, he could help us. I'm not saying that's what we're doing with him, but he could help us, all the way through all the different looks. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
One of the big themes, nationally is the Patrick's never played a road playoff game. A lot of people just wanted to see it. It's a testament, obviously, to the success you guys have had, but also, is that something that he uses as motivation? Does he hear that? Is he aware of those kind of things? Is it a chip on his shoulder?
Yeah, I haven't talked to him about that. So, I mean, might be, might not. I know he's looking forward to playing, and he gets fired up for every game, and that's a great venue up there. So, you can't get fired up for that. Or get fired up, right? So, but he's always ready and excited. But I don't know if he's heard all that. I mean, I don't think he listens to much of that stuff.
Following up on that, Patrick threw so well despite those conditions last weekend. His body language was so positive during the whole game. We've worked with a lot of quarterbacks. What is it about Patrick's preparation, approach, mindset in the postseason that helps him play some of his best football?
Yeah, I tell you all the way around, his preparation is phenomenal. His attitude is phenomenal. His compete is phenomenal. So you love all of that, and we're lucky to have him here. That's for the city and for the organization here. So he's a heck of a football player. He's such a well-rounded, good person that he's great in the locker room. Very hard for a guy like that to have the respect of the team and the organization, and kind of be able to fall into both areas and be comfortable with both areas without getting labeled whatever, a schmooze, right? So, but he handles both so well, and it's a great characteristic to have for him. Yeah.
Andy, obviously Patrick's not the fastest quarterback in the world, but what makes him so effective as a scrambler?
Yeah, I've been around two guys like that, him and Brett Favre. Neither one time great on the clock, but people have a hard time getting to them, catching them, and all that bit. So I guess he's got field speed. I'm not sure there is such thing, but he runs well on the field.
Maybe Kadarius Toney, was he at all close to playing last week? And what's your optimism he could play on Sunday?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll just see. I'm with Ross, and I'm just taking it day by day. See what they can do, and we'll go from there. But I'm hoping that they're feeling better. That's the main thing.
weekend for the game day night. Rasheed talked about how he's got a better understanding of the rules, like when to change the route. How much have you seen him grow in that capacity? How much has it made you involve him more and more?
Yeah, every week he's gotten a little bit better, and he's got a great relationship with Pat, and they talk through things. MVS has been phenomenal for him, just sharing his knowledge and experience. So it's he's all ears. He wants to be great, and he's willing to work at it. He's willing to listen, which a lot of guys just turn the veterans off, but he wants to absorb all of that and take it in.
Generally speaking, how uncommon is that for a rookie and what you teach in the offense this week?
Yeah, somebody hit me with that earlier in the season. Might have been you, just on Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy and the guys that have been rookies that have been productive. So I've got a lot of rookies, and if you can narrow it down, Reggie, I believe, was the other one. So if you can narrow it down to 4 guys, that's a tough thing to do, I'd say. Yeah.
Coach, kind of follow up on what Sam was talking about with the running. Patrick, the arm talent we hear about, but it's not all just fastballs, right? He has great touch and knows when to take it off, when to maybe kind of float it up there. But is there like a spatial awareness gene, like he understands all the things? Is that something you saw in him from the tape and from college, or is that something that you have to really get in the building and work with him to?
Yeah.
And does that contribute to his running ability as well?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, he's got good feel, and so he throws a fairly easy ball to catch, which means that he has awareness of depth for sure, and everything's not a fastball. But he's got that. He's got a feel for that, I'd tell you. So great touch on things.
Coach, on Josh Allen, you've been facing him for years now, too, a lot of times, a couple times a year sometimes. How have you seen him kind of develop and kind of take it to that next level with his competitiveness and how he's played against you all?
Yeah, great competitor. Real good football player. Again, he's got a knack for making plays and when they need plays. And not that he doesn't the other times, but when they need one, he's willing to step up there. So, and I think he's a good kid and handles things the right way from what I've been told. So,
is there a trick to, like when he runs, if you can get penalties when you're sliding, it kind of almost looks like he's going to slide and go. How difficult is that to figure out when you can take a shot at him?
Yeah, I mean, the quarterbacks have that down pretty good, all of them. So you just have to be smart on the defense side. You just have to be smart with it. Yeah.
Coach, this will be the third time you played this Bills team in the playoffs for a short amount of years. How difficult is it, preparing for a team that you play them in the playoffs and play them in the regular season, that you know each other so well?
Yeah, we have. We've played them quite a few times. They're well coached, good football team. So, like you play in the AFC West, you kind of get to know guys. They just haven't had the change up there, so it's been the same thing, and with a little different wrinkles, but the same people. So they've had consistency with it, and which means you've got to play good football on our side, and they've got to do the same. You got to be disciplined with what you do, and the guys have had reps at it.
Last do you go back in the archives a lot and look and see, but this may work?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we look at everything. That's what you do, but. They're doing the same thing. So, yeah.
Last two items. With regard to the red zone issue, so is it as easy as saying, well, you had the drop pass, you had the penalty that cost you the touchdown, you had the bad snap on the third down, or are there broader issues here?
Yeah, there's some things we can do. That we can give them that are better, and then it's both. It's probably more complicated than just the one thing. So we've all got a little piece of that. But the thing is, you obviously you want to score touchdowns, and love Bucker, and he's doing a phenomenal job. But as you go here, you want to make sure you get in the end zone, score touchdowns.
Last one, buddy.
Andy, guys like Sean McDermott and Beach and Porter kind of all got their entree into the league through becoming your assistant to the head coach. What do you look for in that job, and how hard is that job?
Yeah, you're doing a lot of the busy work as an administrative assistant. On the other side of it, you really get to see almost everything the head coach sees, and not that you're making the decisions, but you at least have your eyes open to that. And if you go right into being a position coach, you normally don't see all the behind the scenes things. So it's a good way to start. Yeah.
You learn anything in particular about Sean that you can remember from how he did the job?
Yeah, smart, tough, and works hard.
That's Andy Reid. That's what he had to say earlier today at One Arrowhead Drive as the Chiefs get ready for the third act of their playoff trilogy against the Buffalo Bills. First of those to be in Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes has played in Buffalo one time. Spencer, do you know what was notable about the Chiefs' previous game in Buffalo with Patrick Mahomes as their starting quarterback?
Well, it was obviously in the regular season.
Yes, it was.
But I do not know.
It was in the year 2020.
So that's why, okay, because I remember listening to his press conference earlier, and he said it's a great place to get to play in front of fans this time.
Yes. Patrick Mahomes has never had to deal with the Bills Mafia at full throat because there was nobody inside, nobody allowed inside.
Probably cardboard cutouts.
Yes. I don't know if the Bills did the cardboard cutouts. That was eerie to me. Like, there were some teams that did it kind of a cool way, like paid some tribute to their season ticket holders or club legends or
celebrities,
whatever it was. But yeah, the people that were just putting like, oh, hey, Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher are at the game. Here they are sitting in the third row. That didn't do it for me. That wasn't it for me, man. Yeah. Of all of the, that's going to be such a hard thing to explain. Like in 20 years, when God willing, I have children, they're going to see like highlights of games that happened in empty stadiums. They're going to say, what happened there? I said, buddy, where do I start?
Yeah.
That's going to be a hard one to explain. But yes, so Mahomes is 1-0 in Buffalo. That's true. But in front of the Bills Mafia, with that crowd being what I'm sure it will be for a Sunday night, we have yet to see what that is going to be. And that's another layer of what makes this playoff matchup so tantalizing coming up on Sunday night. A 5:30 kickoff. Pregame coverage, by the way, if you want to listen right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9 to the great Mitch Holtis and the Chiefs Radio Network, you can do that with pregame coverage starting at 4, going an extra half hour on the pregame ahead of the 5:30 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. Maybe you'd like to place a wager on it. You will be able to do that at the Prairie Band Sportsbook. Grand opening is Friday. We're going to be there from 2 to 4 right here on 580 Sports Talk. So come on out to check us out and experience the only locally and tribally owned sportsbook with one of the most extensive betting catalogs in the state of Kansas. Check out the 10 betting kiosk. Sit down for a meal at Three Fires Steakhouse. Enjoy the premium lounge chairs, wall-to-wall TVs, and in-seat food and beverage service. First-class resort amenities for the Prairie Band Sportsbook to get the most bang out of your betting buck. Join us Friday on 580 Sports Talk from 2 to 4. The whole gang will be there. Come out, say hello, place your first bet at the only locally owned sportsbook in Kansas, the Prairie Band Sportsbook, about 20 minutes north of Topeka at the Prairie Band Casino Resort in Mayetta. That's going to wrap up hour number 2. Brendan Dworzinski's off to Lee Arena. He's got Washburn basketball tonight, starting at 5:15 with pregame coverage over on Classic Country 106.9. So it's me and Spencer the rest of the way. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, big sports business news. The RSN model, too big to fail. Tell you what that means. Plus, what is wrong with you? And Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com. Let's get it. Hour number 3, 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday afternoon. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis hanging out with you on this Wednesday. However, you're tuning in and joining us, whether it's on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Hi. Oh, there we go. Hey, now you can see me, my ghostly hand. Yeah, wave to the people, Spencer. We're live on YouTube on 580 Sports Talk, our YouTube channel. However you're hanging out with us on this Wednesday, we sure appreciate you doing so. Half of the show in the books, another half still to come. We've got some great stuff coming your way this 4 o'clock hour with another round of What Is Wrong With You and the great Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com set to join us at the bottom of the hour. We'll ask him how K-State managed that upset win over 9th-ranked Baylor last night at Bramlage Coliseum, and we'll look ahead to their Saturday home matchup against Oklahoma State. There's sports headlines in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll take a closer look at the Bills-Chiefs injury report. It's a pretty tame one for the Chiefs. It is decidedly not that for the Bills. They've got 6 guys not practicing due to injury, and a lot of those injuries on the defensive side of some pretty critical players. So
they did get roughed up in that game.
They did, and it was something that I thought would happen. We talked about it last week. Was Buffalo's field doesn't have the warming system, the boiler system underneath the surface like Kansas City's does. So while you heard, if you were watching the stream-only broadcast on Peacock, and there was a sideline report before the game, Kaylee Hartung was the sideline reporter, and said, the field isn't as bad as it looks. Like, the field is actually, like, players are saying we can get traction, we can turn, we can cut, our cleats are able to dig in. The kickers said that they didn't have any problems with footing. Like, that heating system underneath the field at Arrowhead made it so that even though it was a miserably cold night on Saturday, the field didn't play like that. They don't have that in Buffalo.
I don't think they can because they have turf.
Well, field turf.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that affects your ability to heat the field or not. Obviously, natural grass at Arrowhead. But that means that you're playing on like a blacktop surface. And I had a feeling there were going to be some big hits and that those were going to maybe accumulate over the course of time. And we saw one Bill leave with a concussion. Taron Johnson, who's remains in concussion protocol, though he was a limited practice participant today. And Terrell Bernard that got his ankle rolled up on, had to leave on a cart, dealing with an ankle sprain, didn't practice today. The leading tackler for the Bills on defense this year, in certain jeopardy for Sunday's game against the Chiefs. So we'll go greater detail into that in the 5 o'clock hour as well. You are, as always, invited and encouraged to join the discussion. If you are watching on YouTube, we've got the live chat going. You can jump in the live chat, ask your questions, drop your comments, let us know what you think about the big sports topics of the day or whatever it is we're talking about, or just chime in to say hello. We appreciate hearing from those of you who are checking us out on the YouTube. You can also hit us on the text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. That's 785-272-9429. We're going to talk about, it's kind of a sports business story, and it impacts Kansas City sports fans. And I'm going to get there in a second. But I just saw this from CBS Sports PR on Twitter. The NFL on CBS scored the most watched AFC wildcard game on any network in 4 years. The Steelers-Bills wildcard game delivered 31.052 million viewers. That's specific. And peaked with 36.774 million viewers. It also gave their over-the-top streaming service Paramount Plus its most streamed wildcard game ever. Why is that notable? Because they didn't play the game when it was originally scheduled. That was a Monday afternoon NFL game, and it did crazy numbers.
It was also a holiday, though.
Yes.
A federal holiday.
Certainly part of it. Certainly can't be ignored as part of it, but I think the NFL might be looking at their scheduling and saying, you know what? If we can swing an MLK Day Monday playoff doubleheader every year, we should do that.
Yeah.
Now, logistically, this wasn't ideal because you went into Monday not knowing all of the playoff matchups. That's why since they instituted the Monday playoff game over the last 3 years, since they expanded the playoff field, that game, that Monday night game, has always been a 4 and a 5 because the 4-5 game at that juncture doesn't affect what the matchup is going to be.
Yeah.
It only affects the winner of that game is going somewhere to play someone. And the other matchups then are already set. So you're not having to, you don't put a team like the Chiefs in a situation where you don't know on Monday, are we getting on a plane or not? Are we playing at home or not? Which team are we playing? The Ravens in the same spot. We don't know who we're going to play going into Monday. We have this bye week, but we lose an extra day of preparation. It isn't perfect. Like some team is going to lose that, but I do wonder if the league could schedule it out where that Monday of the wild card round falls on Martin Luther King Day. If they could intentionally do that every year,
yeah,
and that Monday holiday, and get the doubleheader, I think they do it. They might do it anyway. They might just say, yeah, people will watch they look at those streaming numbers and say, oh, people will stream it at work.
Yeah.
We'll do a 4:30 and a 7:30. We'll do a 4:30 Eastern and a 7:30 Eastern. Or, I mean, they showed that they weren't afraid to do Monday night doubleheaders on different networks. I do one at 6, one at 7:30.
Yeah, I remember when that was like, hey, we'll do this once a year. And now it's becoming a couple times a year.
And I hated it. I hated when they did that. I don't like I like the Monday Night Football game.
Yeah. To be here to tune into one game. It's Monday Night Football.
Exactly.
It's not Monday Night Football games.
Like the one game. Yeah. And I don't understand why the NFL insists on that. But if they did that number, they did those metrics, those streaming numbers, those total viewers for Monday, I'm sure they're thinking, we would love to see if we could put ourselves in a position to do that again. Again, speaking of TV, sports, television, big news today from the world of regional sports networks. If you are a local fan, you are familiar with the ongoing saga of the bankruptcy of Diamond Sports Group, who owns the Bally Sports Regional Sports Networks, or RSNs. Regional Sport Network is a bit of a mouthful, so we're just going to call them RSNs for the rest of this segment. The RSN model, at least as we have come to know it for years, on the verge of collapse. We already saw 2 Major League Baseball teams have their broadcast rights taken over by Major League Baseball during last season. The threat of that happening to NHL and NBA teams has forced some teams in those leagues to be proactive about their TV rights and find a local distributor, a local channel to distribute those games, or a place to broadcast those games to local cable and satellite subscribers. But if you're a Royals fan, you know that the way to watch the Royals is on Bally Sports Kansas City. You know this. You may not get the channel, depending on what your cable or your satellite subscription options are. If you are a streaming cable user, if you have Hulu Live or YouTube TV, you do not get Bally Sports Kansas City. It's not an option for you.
You don't get a lot of regional sports networks. I'm a YouTube TV guy, and we only got one of the 2 in the DC area. So,
but just getting one is impressive. Typically, the streamers, the streaming providers of cable have largely opted out of the regional network game.
And it's more money.
Yes, it costs a lot, and then the regional sport, the RSNs, need to charge more because they're paying so much for the TV rights to the teams that they broadcast. Well, if you know anything about Bally Sports, you know about the ongoing bankruptcy that their parent company, Diamond Sports, which was was sold. They purchased them from Sinclair, the Sinclair Broadcasting Group. They are in bankruptcy. They owe $8.67 billion in debt, which is a lot. And today we found out that indeed, like many other industries in our great country, The RSN model was too big to fail. And coming to deliver the bailout money, Amazon. Today,
None other than them.
Yeah, none other than Amazon. Amazon announcing today. Well, not announcing. I should rephrase. It is being widely reported that Amazon will partner with Diamond Sports as part of a restructuring agreement as the largest owner of RSNs looks to emerge from bankruptcy. This from ESPN. The terms of the agreement were announced by Diamond Sports. Amazon had no comment. The agreement remains subject to approval by bankruptcy court. Diamond Sports entered into bankruptcy last March. The agreement with Diamond Sports' largest creditors allows Diamond Sports to emerge from bankruptcy, continue operations, and prevents a total collapse of the RSN system where the NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball would have to step in to take over production and distribution of most of their teams. As I mentioned, Major League Baseball has already done that with two of their teams, the Padres and the Diamondbacks. It is widely expected that they will do so with the Colorado Rockies this year as well. The Rockies were on a Warner Brothers Discovery-owned RSN, AT&T Sportsnet Rocky Mountain. That channel just doesn't exist anymore. So there's no place for the Rockies to be on television. And that might be ultimately for the best, but maybe not how Major League Baseball sees it. So they are going to enter an agreement with the Rockies like they have with the Padres and the Diamondbacks. That is what is widely expected at this point. This is where this affects you, the Royals fan, who might be thinking, well, how does this affect me? I like to watch the Royals on television. I'm kind of getting excited for this upcoming season. They've invested in some real live Major League Baseball caliber starting pitching to go along with Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino and some other exciting young players. And maybe this is the year that they climb out of the cellar in the American League Central. And I want to be there for every pitch watching on Bally Sports Kansas City. I want to watch Royals baseball this year. How does this affect me? Answer. Under the terms of the restructuring agreement, Amazon will make a minority investment in Diamond and enter into a commercial arrangement to provide access to Diamond's content via Prime Video. Customers will be able to access local team content on Prime Video channels where Diamond has rights. Pricing and availability will be announced at a later date. Regional sports content will also remain available on cable and satellite providers. So, if you have Bally Sports on your, if you're a Cox Cable subscriber like myself, and you channel 34 is Bally Sports Kansas City, it's not going anywhere. You'll still be able to watch the Royals. If you have been unable to do so because you're a Hulu or YouTube TV subscriber, or you're a subscriber to Dish Network, which is a all but out of the RSN game, just doesn't really offer any of those on their satellite service, or you're with another cable provider where you don't get it, or you don't have cable at all. You simply just pay for your streaming services of choice.
But cord cutters.
Yes, if you're a full-fledged cord cutter and you want to watch the Kansas City Royals, it looks like if you are in the Royals market, you will now be able to do that via the Amazon Prime app rather than through the Bally Sports app. Have you ever had the occasion? You haven't. You haven't had the occasion to use the Bally Sports app. I can only say that is wonderful news for you. It is worse than useless.
It's okay. It's probably not as bad as the Masson app, the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network, which is owned by the Orioles and carries the Nationals as well, which they're in a whole fight for money as well, if you've ever seen that.
That's the whole thing.
That's a whole hour you could do on that. But yeah, they finally brought in-market streaming about, I think it was 2 years ago, and it was only to certain providers. And the biggest provider at the time, which it took about 6 months for them to get, was Verizon Fios. That's the biggest provider in the DC area of people that watch the Orioles or the Nationals. And you couldn't stream it for until the very last month of the season.
There are a lot of markets right now that have a similar horror story about a major cable provider or satellite provider in the area not offering the regional sports network in a way that they did for like years. You took it for granted, right?
Yeah.
If you were a sports fan, you took for granted that if you paid for cable or satellite, the game would be there. You would be able to watch the team that played closest to your hometown. You could watch Kansas City Royals baseball if you had cable or if you had satellite. Didn't particularly matter which one. If you had it, the game was on. And that has not been the case in Kansas City with some providers. There are a lot of markets like this. We're going on 4 seasons, I think, in Denver, where the major providers don't offer the channel that carries the Nuggets and Avalanche. That's no big deal. All they've done is each win championships in the last 2 seasons. So this is an ongoing issue. And what I wonder for our listeners, and you guys can let me know, 785-272-9429 is the text line. You can chime in on the YouTube live chat as well. What I'm curious about is how your television consumption of the Royals has been impacted in recent years. And if it's strictly like, okay, if you watch less Royals baseball, yeah, I still get them, but they stink. Why would I waste my time? Like, I understand that, but I'm curious to hear from anyone who would watch them if they were on, but they haven't been on. You're a subscriber to something, or you decided to cut the cord and you did YouTube TV or Hulu Live or whatever, and the Royals are not an option for you. And there's no backdoor option because you can't subscribe to MLB TV and watch Royals games in this market because of the in-market blackouts that the leagues enforce. So that's what I am curious about, is if your Royals consumption has been impacted by its availability, if this new availability, this option to pay to watch Royals games on Bally Sports Kansas City via Amazon Prime. Now, I don't know what that's going to cost. I know that it was $20 a month to subscribe to what they called Bally Live, which let you watch the Royals on the Bally Sports app. And that was an option, I think, for most, if not all, of last season. I didn't know anybody who ponied up for that, and I know of people who did outside of this market who maybe did it for a different team, and not many of them were satisfied with that experience. But if it's through a more trustworthy app, maybe one you already have. Maybe you have Amazon Prime. Maybe you, like me, are married to a teacher, and Amazon Prime is an indispensable part of your everyday life. Or you have Amazon Prime because you want to watch the Thursday night football games. And so you subscribe to it so you stream the Thursday night football games. So with a more reliable over-the-top streaming option, does that make you more likely to purchase that, to buy Royals baseball, to watch, to have a place where you can sit down in front of your television? They're all smart. All the new ones are smart TVs anymore. You have to ask to find the ones that don't come with the Roku platform or the Amazon platform on them anymore. Most TVs are smart TVs, or you can go buy the streaming stick. And whether you like that's where it's gone or not, many of you have made that adjustment because that's how you watch ESPN Plus. So you can watch all the K-State or KU games, or that's how you paid for Peacock so you could watch the Chiefs in the playoffs on Saturday. If you have that and you have Amazon Prime, and now there is a place where your cable or satellite isn't offering the Royals, you're a cord cutter, you've lost this ability to watch Royals baseball. Now here is a chance to get that opportunity back with a more reliable and trustworthy app being backed by Amazon software, Amazon resources. Does that make you more likely to say, okay, I'll spend $10 to $20 a month to watch the Royals? Maybe the answer is no. And that's what I'm curious about. Again, 785-272-9429 is the text line. And you can also comment on the YouTube comments. But this is happening for the Royals, and there are 4 other teams in baseball that Bally has the digital broadcast rights to. And I would think that under the terms of this agreement, Diamond Sports would try and get the digital distribution rights for all 11 of the Major League Baseball teams that it currently has the broadcast rights for, and transfer those over to an in-market stream option on Amazon. So a couple of questions or a couple of comments from the YouTube stream. Vance says he's a Dish subscriber. They don't carry Bally, but unless the Royals are improve or are competitive, don't know if I would pay to watch them. Entirely fair. Entirely fair. That's a comment from Vance on the YouTube stream. We got Paul on the YouTube stream as well. Paul says, YouTube TV subscriber, annoyed that the Royals are unavailable, but as noted, Royals have not been worth watching lately. Prime Video subscription as well. Excited to at least have a choice in ignoring the Royals. So it will probably cost something on top of your Amazon Prime subscription. Honestly, it shouldn't. For what Prime costs, they ought to break you off for free on this.
And they keep upping the price, I feel like, every, 6 to 10 months.
Yeah, believe me, aware. Keenly aware of the price going up on the Amazon Prime. That ought to be, honestly, it's a drop in the bucket for Amazon. If it were $5 a month to say, yeah, you can watch your in-market sports team on Bally Sports on Amazon Prime for $5 a month. If you don't have that option, $5 a month probably worth it. $10 a month probably still worth it, but maybe pushing it.
Yeah,
$20 a month was a big ask from Bally because that's 6-month baseball season. That's $180, and I know you're not tied into it, so you don't have to pay for all of it. But theoretically, you would like for the Royals to be playing games in September that you would like to watch, right? So your best case scenario is paying all $180 to be able to watch every Royals game. But again, your mileage varies. People can't sit down probably and watch every single game. You're doing something on a given night. You got kids. You got to put them to bed. You're not staying up for the West Coast games when they're on a West Coast road trip. An a la carte option would be really intriguing, I think, there as well.
So you said Bally was, $20 a month?
Yeah, it was $20 a month to subscribe over the top to what they called Bally Live.
Yeah, so off the air earlier, remember I was telling you about in D.C., the Wizards Capitals owner?
Yes.
Bought that regional network, and he relaunched it as Monumental Sports Network.
Right.
And they unveiled a direct-to-consumer subscription, but only, again, in-market can you subscribe to this.
Right.
You get access to the Wizards, the Capitals, the Mystics, and then their other programmings. Rachel Nichols has a program on there now as well.
Okay. So
$20 a month.
Yeah.
So the value in that's bigger than the value that you would pay for Bally.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, it's still 20 a month.
But you get Wizards and Capitals games.
Right. If you're in the Kansas City market, you're just getting the Royals.
Yeah.
Basically, you're just getting the Royals. You're not getting the channel. And look, they're not a whole lot unless you really love Missouri Valley basketball. They're not showing you a whole lot else, or shows about trading cards. There's not a ton else on Bally Sports that's really must see programming.
Do they have any betting shows on there?
Of course they do. The whole idea behind Bally Sports is we're going to put our name on these networks, and we're going to be we're going to have a gambling app. We're going to be where you go to bet. We're going to be where you go to watch the games, and it's just falling on its face.
The whole Bally Sports saga, from the iterations of how it all became Bally, is just crazy.
The only good thing that Bally Sports did was the commercial last year about the condensed version of games that they showed. So the idea was that instead of a tall boy, like a tall boy can of beer, they had short boys, and they had a whole song, and Randy Johnson was in the ads, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I still sometimes walk around the house singing the Short Boys song to myself. Yes, we made a short boy, much shorter than a tall boy. Anyway, that was the only good thing that Bally Sports did last year. But a new option coming potentially to be able to watch the Kansas City Royals. Be on the lookout for that. We're going to take a break. What is wrong with you is next. Be on the lookout for that here on 580 Sports Talk. It's What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. What Is Wrong With You is sponsored by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our current weekly champion is the guy who borrowed a skid steer from his place of work and did some major damage in a couple of different parking lots in Lincoln, Nebraska, including crashing into a police cruiser and only getting out of the skid loader at gunpoint. 36-year-old Samuel Payrow is currently our What Is Wrong With You champion for the week. Going to be a hard story to beat, but we got two more today, including, this is an exciting moment, this is Spencer's first What Is Wrong With You.
Let's go.
This is
it
so
took
exciting.
me a few stories, but I think I found the one.
I'm very excited to see it. Go ahead, Spencer, introduce us. You get to go first. You have the honors.
All right. Florida man upset with Subway order gets charged with battery after he hurled the sandwich at the employee. An irate Subway customer in Florida has been charged with battery after he allegedly hurled his sandwich at an employee over, quote, the way it was cut, according to an arrest affidavit from the Martin County Sheriff's Office. Alberto de Barrios, who was 54, was taken into custody, who by the police were what they called, quote, a disturbance at a Subway restaurant in Stuart, Florida, just after 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 9th. The Subway worker told the sheriff's department that he became upset after the way he found out his sandwich was not separated, according to the arrest records.
So he cut it good enough.
Yeah. It wasn't cut the way he wanted it to, which is weird because usually they ask you.
Yes, it's have it your way is their whole thing.
The two had a, quote, brief verbal exchange, and de Barrios started to cause a disruptive scene. Records say the employees then said they were no longer going to serve him. That's when he made a phone call. While he was on the phone, he allegedly hurled the sandwich at an employee that hit her in the mid to lower body, according to the affidavit. He stormed out of the restaurant. The worker who was allegedly assaulted followed him outside and captured video evidence of his demeanor and his his car's license plate. When questioned by deputies, he said he was, quote, upset over his sandwich not being cut, but said he, quote, believed he tried the sandwich at the counter instead, or he threw the sandwich at the counter instead of the worker, but he threw it at the worker. Store surveillance footage also showed him taking the sandwich from the counter and hitting the worker. He was arrested and charged with battery and booked into the county jail. He was released Wednesday, $1,000 bond. He's going to be arraigned on February 1st.
So, yeah, he didn't have it his way, obviously. That's Burger King's thing.
But
have it
you
your
go
way.
to Subway and they say, what would you like on it?
What is Subway's slogan?
Eat fresh.
Yeah, but they're like, have it your way was also their slogan, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like, you want this, or this?
Make it your way. What the? I don't know.
We know. We get it.
The way a sandwich should be.
That's it.
Yeah.
Apparently, the way the sandwich should be is not how de Barrios thought it should be.
Yeah, it was not the way. It was not cut the way it should be. And he threw a sandwich, perfectly good sandwich, other than it wasn't cut enough. Just like, I don't know, man. Tell him to cut it again.
Florida man, then I don't know what is.
That is some Florida man behavior. For my story today, we are going to New Mexico. We meet Abrazo Homes. That's not a person. That's a developer. They develop houses. They build houses. And they've got different floor plans for their houses that are available in their housing developments. Most of these homes have boring names like the Jane or the Pilsner, but some of them have names inspired by real people. Like there's the Audrey, named after Audrey Hepburn. That's neat.
Yeah.
The Julia is named after famous architect Julia Morgan. Then there's the Anne, as in Frank. And this is how they describe it. In her diary, Anne Frank discussed her view of the seasonally changing tree. In honor of her, we have designed our Anne plan to maximize the view we feel would be suitable for Anne herself. I don't know what you know about the view Anne Frank had.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like on purpose. She didn't choose. That wasn't a choice that she made. That wasn't a design option. Anne Frank decided, you know what? I'm in this room. I'm in this attic hiding because I love the view.
The next part, I think, is just
then
very is worse, I think.
Then there's the Harriet. That one's named after Harriet Tubman, the icon of American courage and freedom. Now, Abrazo Holmes has scrubbed these from the internet, but the internet, of course, lives forever on the Internet Archive. But yes, the descriptions entirely unflattering, entirely unnecessary. Don't yes, courageous people, courageous women, courageous stories. Honoring them with a floor plan named after them is probably not the way to go. You don't need to do floor plans named after Harriet Tubman. Yeah, you don't need to do that. I don't think that beats our Florida man today throwing the sandwich. I'm going to go with your story today. I think your story's a winner today.
Day one and I win.
Day one and you win. I don't think though that you take down the skid steer guy just going nuts in the parking lot.
I think that's going to stick around for the rest of the week.
It's going to be, in fact, because we're off at 4 the next 2 days, that is our weekly winner. So our weekly champion for this week is the skid steer guy. He is our winner of What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Stay with us. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next for the Wildcat Wrap-up on 580 Sports Talk.
but still, 17 turnovers and 22 fewer shots than the ninth ranked team in the country, and you win. And that means you're doing a lot of little things really well, and they really were.
Defensively, they hold that Baylor team, who came in as the number 1 3-point shooting team in the country, to 5 of 28 from behind the arc, in another game where an opponent's held in the 50s or 60s. Is this a legitimately good defensive team? This is kind of going to be what they hang their hat on this year, you think?
Yeah, it's going to have to be. They're just not as fluid on offense as they expected to be. I mean, they're missing a couple crucial parts to that. And they're going to have to be really good in the half court defensively. There's no doubt about it. They've got to limit the scoring. And like this game was in the 50s when it went to overtime. So it's impressive what they did. But that is going to have to be it because they are not comfortable, fluid scorers. We would think Tyler Perry could be that. He has been in the past, but we thought maybe he fixed himself against UCF, and he's gone right back into it. A dreadful night for him shooting. And Cam Carter has 7 of the 17 turnovers. When your 2 veteran guards do that and you win, your big men did something right. The young guys did enough right. And Arthur Kaluma was really good last night, even though he only had 12 points. He had the 4 biggest points of the game, but it wasn't focused on scoring as much as defense, rebounding, and setting a tone, and he was marvelous.
Hey, Tim, Spencer here. How do you think last night's thrilling victory can push K-State through the rest of the season and potentially, be in the top 3 or 4 in the conference?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm disappointed in that you didn't ask me why I don't like to be sticky. It's a mystery.
I think he took it for granted. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't. Yeah. I think it was about eating ribs. I'm not sure. But anyhow, look, I don't know if any one game has any impact on the next game in this conference. It's just bizarre what we're seeing across this league. And if you've been around the Big 12, you've seen this. But this seems to be at a level that it's hard to understand. Home courts are like gold, and it's so hard to win on someone's home court. K-State has shown that in the last 2 games where they had Texas Tech beat and they lost. And then Baylor comes in and had K-State virtually beat and they lost. So I don't think it means a thing. For Saturday's game against Oklahoma State, the team that's struggling the most in this conference coming into Bramwich Coliseum, that's a 20-point win, right? No, you're in peril of losing that game. Like any other game. It's just line up and see what the day holds and try to find a way to win a game.
Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com is our guest, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk, as he does every Wednesday at this time. Check out Fitz and his staff's great work at GoPowerCat.com. Subscribe today to the 24/7 Sports Network and check him out on Twitter at Life of Fitz. The thing that continues to astound me about this K-State team is that guys just seem to be ready for their moment when their number is called. Dorian Finister went from, I think, 7 of 8 games where he was a DNP CD, and now he's the 6th man. Jarrell Colbert went from the side of a milk carton to being an indispensable interior defensive presence for this team. And RJ Jones last night, Chris Spatola could not stop reminding us at every turn that he hadn't scored since the North Alabama game. That's in the past tense because he hit a massive 3 in overtime. Just where do you comes from? Why do you think that Jerome Tang is able to get these guys to respond when they are called on, even if their moment is maybe few and far between?
Yeah, it's crazy. That shot by RJ was enormous. And what I like about all of these freshmen, all of these young guys, is they've got a fearlessness to them, which can be good and bad. I mean, you can, trust your skills, the things you could get away with in high school, and they don't work as well in college. But boy, that shot was pure and true. And that whole final sequence where Gasson gets the rebound and tips it out, it ends up through Finister to Kaluma. It was amazing because everyone kind of got involved. But Dorian Finister has shocked me with his athleticism. I had no clue this kid had those kind of hops. And he's now pretty much go-to target on alley-oops because he accelerates so fast and gets up so high. Jones saying speak glowingly of him, and I thought last night during the game he looked overmatched. But he settled in and played really well. I think this kid's upside is a lot higher than we ever understood. I think there's a lot in there that he can get out. And next step is probably expanding his scoring ability because he's been playing great defense and rebounding and dunking the hell out of the ball.
You mentioned Oklahoma State next up on Saturday. It's a big game because every game in the Big 12 is a big one, but the next 9 after this for K-State are either road games or home games against ranked teams. So with that in mind, how necessary is it that K-State bank another win and be 4-1 in the league for that stretch?
Yeah, you know what? In this league, they've already stolen the one on the road, which was amazing. They needed that. And as long as you can stay ahead of the curve, if you want to win the conference, you're going to win a whole bunch on the road and not lose at home. But right now, Kansas State, what they need to do is absolutely defend their home court. And Baylor was a huge step in that. That's one of the better teams you're going to see this season, and they were able to defend their home court. You don't go back to Baylor, so you got to win a game out of this unbalanced schedule. So when Kansas comes in, I can't remember who comes in. Whoever else. They've got to defend their home court, or they erase that West Virginia win. As long as they can stay ahead of the game, and still win or two on the road, they can keep their head above water and be in the NCAA tournament.
Our guest is Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com, joining us for the Wildcat Wrap-up on the Funny Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on Live TV Sports Talk. Let's turn our attention to the gridiron. Some welcome news percolating that Kansas State's going to add a talented wide receiver to their roster. Dante Cephas, transfer from Penn State via Kent State. Sounds like he's all good to go to join the K-State family. What kind of player are the Wildcats getting once the Cephas transfer is made official?
Well, obviously one who doesn't seek attention because he put out nothing in terms of he was headed to K-State, he was headed to K-State, he was enrolling at K-State, he was at K-State. In this era of social media that come across a player who's like, you'll know, and that's all. It's just so different. He's on campus apparently. He is enrolled apparently. So that means he's locked in at K-State. That's very good news. I think they want another guy out of the portal that makes some runs at the season. Really good to see from Alabama come in on the coldest day of the year, or one of them. So badly that the airport couldn't get him in here. So it was pretty much, you know what? K-State said, okay, you got to drive from Wichita to Manhattan, and then when you get your car, it's going to be -6. Just go home. This ain't going to work, man. And it didn't. He ended up going to Tulane, which, it's hometown, so that's great for him. But, they still want more out of the portal, and I think there's plenty out there, and more guys going in every day as coaches depart. It throws that portal wide open, and now we're seeing Alabama really start to have some attrition from the portal of some of their top players. So the Wild West is still wild, and there's battles to be won for Chris Kleiman's program on the recruiting trail.
Speaking of Chris Kleiman, I think it's just going to be standard operating procedure that as long as Chris Kleiman is at Kansas State, whenever a national college football writer writes an article about a high-profile job opening and has to come up with 8 or 9 candidates for the job to flesh out his word count, he's going to alight on Chris Kleiman. And it's a sign of respect, how well regarded that Kleiman is in the coaching industry, that people would think of his name and would consider him a candidate. But when the Washington job came open this weekend, Kleiman did have to make not necessarily a public statement. He didn't go on Twitter or anything, but he did say in an interview that he was not interested in that job. What can you tell us about how real Washington interest was, if there was any, in chatting with Kleiman about that job? And what do you know about that story?
He certainly he took their phone call. I think that's interesting. He did speak with them. He asked a lot of questions. And then, you know what? He realized that this wasn't for me. It's not a good time. I'm really happy here. But he did his due diligence and spoke to him and put some thought into it. I just don't think he's leaving. I mean, he turned down what could have been a significant raise at Washington, which is a really good program going into the Big Ten. But I think he's very happy at Kansas State. And there's some stuff in the background that people don't really know about. He's got, some family health issues going on. And, leaving Kansas when your family's in Iowa to go to Washington, the timing just didn't work out very well.
Do you think Kleiman and maybe every coach in the country, as soon as they saw the news about Nick Saban retiring, turned to their wife or whoever they happened to be with at the time and said, I'm getting a raise?
No doubt. That's how it worked. The thing that really bothered me about the Saban thing was his agent handled almost everyone that was a candidate there, and he got them all raises. I mean, it's like he was literally orchestrating fake interest. And that's so much of what we hear when a coach is interested. The agent leaked it to the reporter. And honestly, I'm kind of sick of reporters going along with that game. Is he really interested? No, he just wants a raise, and you're going to use me to get that raise. But yeah, everyone gets raises. Everyone's happy. But now in this new world, it could be a raise for you. It could be a raise for your coaching staff. Could be a raise in your budget. Could be, somehow getting more NIL money on the table for your program. All that is part of the process now. It's part of the calculation whether a coach stays or goes.
A parting gift, truly, to the college football coaches out there from Nick Saban. I kicked your tails for years, and you'll get a raise thanks to me on my way out. Tim Fitzgerald is the publisher at GoPowerCat.com. He and his staff do outstanding work covering all things Cats. Subscribe today to 24/7 Sports Network to check out GoPowerCat.com stuff. Follow Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. And, of course, listen to him every Wednesday at this time on the Wildcat Wrap-up. Fitz, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, boys. Nice to meet you, Spencer. Well, be careful with Dan. He's got you at that.
Yeah.
Always. Gotta be.
Thank you, Fitz. Appreciate you putting in a good word for me.
You bet.
That is Tim Fitzgerald. One more hour, 580 Sports Talk is coming up next. Let's get it. Fourth and final hour of 580 Sports Talk. At you on a Wednesday. Dan Lucero and Spencer Dupuis rocking in the free world for one more hour with you on this edition of the show. Thanks for tuning in. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WIBW.com, and on the YouTube stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for hanging out with us on the show. Brendan Dworzinski is out rest of the day. He is hanging out at Lee Arena. Washburn basketball tonight. Couple of home games. Tip off 5:15, or rather pregame 5:15 over on our sister station, Classic Country 106.9. A reminder, Friday, big day on 580 Sports Talk. Big day at the Prairie Band Sportsbook. Their first day of operation. And we 3 Sports Talk guys are going to be there for the opening, and we want you to join us too and check out the only locally and tribally owned sportsbook in Kansas, Prairie Band Sportsbook. We will be there Friday from 2 to 4. That's the extent of our show on Friday. We're going to be done at 4 the next 2 days, so we can make way for coverage of the Topeka Invitational Basketball Tournament. We'll be up at the Prairie Band Sportsbook, 12305 150th Road in Mayetta, hanging out, checking out the big TVs, the premium lounge chairs, the in-seat food and beverage service, and all of the other great amenities that the Prairie Band Sportsbook has to offer. And yeah, we'll be getting down a little bit. We found out you get down a little bit, Spencer. You bet a little bit here and there.
A little bit. It's been a while.
Here and there. Do you have a good gambling story, whether it's a good win or a bad beat?
Ooh, this is Super Bowl a few years ago. I think I won $150 on a $5 bet.
Hey, that's not too shabby.
Yeah, it was. I guess it was maybe 20. I can't remember which Super Bowl, but Gronk needed over 50 yards and he got 53 yards.
Okay,
and that won my parlay.
Oh, there you go. See, I am as a general rule, like a parlay can be fun to put together here and there, but those are not the move, because those are losers over the course of time. Like, there's a reason the books want you to play the parlays. Like, you are not gonna hit your 25 leg parlay.
Yeah.
Like, maybe a 3-legger, a 4-legger here and there. I indulge. It's the people that tell me, yeah, man, I got $2 on this 28-leg parlay, and they're scratching their necks like a crack addict. Like, I got 28-leg parlay.
Yeah.
It's gonna pay my mortgage if I hit it. Like, come on, man.
I didn't know what to bet, and I was like, I need to bet something. And I was going, so this was before sports betting was legal in Maryland.
Uh-huh.
So I was going to my buddy's house to watch the Super Bowl. He lived in Maryland.
Mm-hmm. So you had to get down before you left.
Yeah, and I was like,
line, yeah.
And I was going over there like 4 or 5 hours before the Super Bowl. So I was like, I can't do any last minute ones or anything else like that. So I was like, I parlay $5. And I made 145 or something like that on it, 150.
There you go. So there will be lots of opportunities for you to bet at the new Prairie Band Sportsbook, one of the most extensive betting catalogs in Kansas, with 10 betting kiosks and BYOB, bring your own bet technology. And folks, if you bet and don't win, you're going to have a second chance to win some other cool prizes. With a second chance drawing on Saturday from 12:30 to 1:30, you could win autographed items from Bill Self, Bo Jackson, Travis Kelce, tickets to K-State basketball, tickets to Arrowhead Stadium to see Sporting Kansas City against Lionel Messi and Inter Miami coming up this April. All you got to do is drop in your non-winning bet slips from Prairie Band Sportsbook into the drawing drum on Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to 1:29 p.m. If you place a $20 or more bet and it does not win, then you have the second chance opportunity to win those autographed items with Prairie Band's second chance drawing. So they got some great stuff coming up this weekend, and part of it is that we're going to be there. So what's better than that? Come and hang out with us from 2 to 4 on Friday. Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta, next to the Prairie Band Casino and Resort.
I chose a good week to start.
You really did. You really did. I'll tell you. So how long was sports gambling legal in so you're from Virginia, you were living in West Virginia. When did all of that become legal? Like you could gamble from your phones?
I guess sometime in college in West Virginia.
Okay.
Probably 2018.
2018.
2017,
wow. Okay.
2018, somewhere around there. Didn't do it as much. And then I think 2020 maybe it was Virginia, and then it was like FanDuel had all those promos where you won no matter what.
Yeah.
So I was into it just for $5 and I won 50, and then you had to put it back into it, and
Sure.
it was a fun thing while it lasted.
Yeah. I know some people, myself included, who are still playing with all of the house money from when Kansas got legalized sports betting back in September of 2022. So excited to have this locally owned and tribally owned sports book up at Prairie Band Sportsbook, and hope you'll join us for our remote broadcast there from 2 to 4 on Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to get into our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We're going to get into the Chiefs-Bills injury report a little bit more later on. Obviously, that's a big deal, so we're going to carve out its own space for that discussion. It's a pretty noteworthy injury report.
Well, and there was a noteworthy addition to the IR today that originally when the day started, I thought he just wasn't going to practice.
And who was that?
Backup linebacker.
For the Chiefs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Cam Jones. Yeah, Cam Jones hit the IR today.
But he was supposed to just not practice today.
Yeah.
Is what I read this morning when I got in.
So, yeah, they've moved him to the IR. Cole Christensen was promoted to the active roster there. So, and we'll get to the guys who are going to play or would ideally play for the Bills and didn't practice today. Lots of that coming up a little bit later on. But first, our 580 Sports Talk headlines. And we'll start with this. If you were tuning in tonight and expecting to hear Kansas State women's basketball, if you are interested in the 7th-ranked women's basketball team in the country, you'll be interested to know that they do not play tonight because TCU has forfeited the game due to a lack of available players. Not only that, the Horned Frogs, who sit currently 13th in the 14-team Big 12 standings, have forfeited Saturday's game against Iowa State as well. So K-State, who was already in Dallas, prepared to play tonight, in Fort Worth, prepared to play tonight's game, instead will not play. Big 12 bylaws grant K-State a league win in the standings, so K-State moves to 6-0 in league play. But NCAA bylaws say the game goes down not as a forfeit, but as a no contest. So it does not affect K-State's record. They remain overall 17-1. Now, TCU's women had 10 players play on Saturday against Houston. In that game, their starting point guard tore her ACL in her right knee, so she's going to be out for the rest of the year. Their starting center, maybe their best player, Sedona Prince, is out. She broke a finger earlier this month, and apparently there were multiple injuries in practice on Tuesday for the TCU team. That's been reported. What are they doing in basketball practice that is getting multiple players hurt? Are they running Oklahoma drills? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a very intense practice. I mean, I know from just intense practices, my buddy is the GA for Marshall women's basketball, and they were running 3-hour practices right before conference play, and they were like long, tough practices. And I think one player did get hurt or something, so they weren't as intense after that, and they've started out conference play undefeated, so that probably helped it too.
There was a lot of speculation that this was just fortunate timing for TCU in doing this, that they were choosing a week in which they were playing the two teams that are presently tied for first in the Big 12 standings in Kansas State and Iowa State, and saying, yeah, we don't want to play those games. Get us out of those. We just don't want to play them. We're going to go ahead and claim we don't have enough healthy bodies. On the flip side of that, TCU took to Twitter earlier today to say that the women's basketball team will be holding open tryouts across the entire student body to see if they can fill out their roster. That's not what you want. If you are Division I, you are a Power 5 institution, and you got to hold open tryouts to get some bodies on the court for your women's basketball team. That is a difficult place to be. That being said, if they had more than 4 healthy players, they should have played these games.
Yeah.
I firmly believe if you've got 5, hell, 4 would be good enough for Gene Hackman, be good enough for Norman Dale and Hoosiers. My team's on the floor. All you need is 5. Somebody gets hurt, somebody fouls out, you finish with 4. Who did that the other night? There was a women's basketball game, somebody finished with 4. I saw a clip of it on social media, and I don't remember for the life of me. who it was. It might have been a Big East game, I want to say, but I can't swear to that. But yeah,
SMU.
Oh, it was SMU. Okay, thank you. So it was an American Conference game. I knew it was, just outside of the traditional Power Five. If you got 5 players, that's enough to play a basketball game. That's enough to start a basketball game. And so if TCU has 5 or 6 healthy players who are on hand, they should be playing these basketball games. Yeah. I don't think you can claim that the health and the safety of the program's student athletes are in jeopardy. Play the game.
It's not a rec game. I mean, they're well-conditioned athletes. They should be able to play 99% of the game.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, they're student athletes in college. Most of them have a scholarship, I would assume, some walk-on players as well, but they've played the game of basketball for long enough. They should be in shape. It's the middle of the season.
And I want to say that I don't obviously there are good reasons for saying, look, we don't have we just went through a global pandemic, right? There were situations where we don't have enough healthy bodies. We don't have enough kids who aren't sick. We don't have the requisite 5 to go and play. We don't. And if that's the case, if for whatever reason TCU does not have 5 able-bodied student athletes who are ready to play a basketball game, then they shouldn't play if that's the case. But if they've got 5, roll the ball out there and go. I think that you should be wanting to compete and not saying, man, we're not going to win these games anyway because we're 1-6 in the league and K-State's unbeaten and Iowa State's unbeaten. We're going to get smoked anyway, so the heck with this. That's not fair. That's not fair to the K-State women who made the trip. They are in Fort Worth. You could have told them to stay home, but you didn't do that. You made that decision today. I don't like it. Smells fishy to me.
I mean, they're trying to get walk-on players. At which point do you maybe think about canning the rest of the season?
See, I don't know that you do that. To an extent, you are non-competitive.
Yeah.
But, them's the breaks. If you have an obligation to play if you can get 5 on the floor. I that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
If you can get 5 on the floor, you should play. And if somebody fouls out or somebody else gets hurt and you got to play with 4, then you play with 4. But play the game. That's what you're there for. So that is why there will be no Kansas State basketball on our airwaves. No K-State women tonight. They remain 17-1, but they will go to 6-0 in the Big 12 with the league forfeit victory. Spencer, what is your first 580 Sports Talk headline of the day?
We'll stick in college here. We'll move to college football. Obviously, Alabama, we mentioned this earlier, Nick Saban leaving last week, but they did quickly get their man in Kalen DeBoer. But as is with any coaching changes in college sports, you're going to see some players enter the transfer portal. Well, I believe the number is upwards of 21. I think I've seen 25, and one of them being star safety Caleb Downs. He's headed to the portal, and later this afternoon it was reported starting left tackle Caden Proctor as well. So a mass exodus out of Tuscaloosa, even though they do bring in a great head coach.
2 studs. Caleb Downs was a second-team All-American as a true freshman at safety and looked like the next great Alabama defensive back. He was newcomer of the year in the SEC, first-team All-SEC, the first known true freshman to lead Alabama in tackles ever. That had never happened before, and he's leaving. Caden Proctor started every game at left tackle as a true freshman at Alabama. Not easy to do. You got to be some kind of stud to do that. He is also in the transfer portal. Now, Proctor's from Iowa, and I remember his recruitment being a pretty big deal. Iowa really thought they had a great chance to keep him in state. At the end, he went to Alabama, and I'm sure there are a lot of kids who are out of state who the appeal to playing at Alabama was not living in Alabama or going to school at Alabama, but playing football for Nick Saban.
Exactly. Just the head coach.
And there are a lot of kids who commit to the head coach. And that's any coach worth anything, as particularly any assistant coach, will say, don't commit to a coach, commit to a program, commit to a school. Commit to where you want to be. But more and more in the transfer portal era, you have coaches, there's more coach mobility. And part of that is you get more player mobility because a lot of kids do commit to the coach. They commit to a situation. And when that situation changes, they look for a different situation. May not necessarily be a better one for them in the long run, but sometimes it feels like that grass is going to be greener somewhere else. Caleb Downs, for his part, he is a native of the state of Georgia. Now, I don't think that's a guarantee that he winds up hunkering down with them hairy Bulldogs in Athens, but very well could. Caden Proctor going to take his talents back to a home state school, be a Hawkeye next year. I don't know that. Hey, he doesn't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be next year at Iowa. Would you want to play on the Iowa offense?
No. If you don't know who the OC is.
Well, even if you...
Iowa.
The longer they drag their feet, it's Kirk Ferentz going to go to administration and say, well, I tried. I couldn't find anybody. Brian's going to have to do it again. We're going to have Brian do it again. In all seriousness, 20-plus players. I've seen varying numbers like you have entering the transfer portal from Alabama. Just goes to show you that Alabama has sort of operated outside of the structure of college football in the sense that everyone else's problems were not Bama problems. Bama did not have some of the issues that other schools did. That didn't mean they didn't have kids who transferred out, hit the portal, didn't like their situation, wanted to be closer to home. Like, it doesn't matter why someone goes to the transfer portal. They have as much right to it as a coach does to have a right to take a new job. Like, what was Kalen DeBoer's reason for leaving Washington? Does he need one?
No.
Alabama felt like a better job. I'm sure they're paying him more money, but that was a choice in the end that he made. And if we're going to let these grown men make this choice, then we should let these other adults make choices too, because legally, you're 18, you're an adult, you get to make these choices. And so these student athletes make these choices, and it's happening all over. It's not just Alabama, but the fact that it is also Alabama is what is notable about this. Like,
well, and it comes on the hinges, comes after this morning. Top or 5-star 25 prospect Zion Grady has decommitted from the program as well. So you're not only getting decommits, but you're getting the people in the transfer portal. So obviously, I mean, that's a ways away, but like you get a 5-star notable. I mean, it's notable on ESPN.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, reopening the commitment doesn't mean he might not stick around. Kalen DeBoer is going to have a chance to re-recruit him. But yes, maybe it was in the end that the most appealing thing about Alabama wasn't the mild falls in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Maybe it was playing for a legend and winning all your games.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what the next chapter of Bama looks like. And Kalen DeBoer keep it going. We talked about this before you got here, Spencer. He better, or he won't be there long.
Exactly.
Because they will fire you for losing the wrong games, and they will fire you for losing too many games, and 3 is too many.
Yeah.
3 is too many. Saban did that one time. He didn't make that mistake again.
Yeah, and then I wonder who takes over then. I think then you see somebody that's maybe coached there at one point take over if that were to happen.
Yeah.
Because you never want to be the guy after Saban. You want to be the guy after Saban that failed.
Yes.
After the guy you want to be able to resurrect.
It's not a mistake that Lane Kiffin didn't jump, or Steve Sarkisian worked it into a raise, or Dan Lanning said no thanks. Yeah. Like, that's not a mistake. Like, they know what that job is by proximity. They know what that is. Kalen DeBoer has no idea. He thinks he does. Like, that's one of those things. And this is not me calling Kalen DeBoer dumb or saying he shouldn't have taken the job. Like, what a whirlwind of a career. What a whirlwind of the last decade for Kalen DeBoer. The guy was the Indiana offensive coordinator not that long ago.
Yeah.
It was not that long ago. Like, he was the Indiana offensive coordinator when Michael Penix was there. And now he is a coach with a conference championship and a berth in the national championship game in the playoff under his belt. And now he's at Alabama. Small town South Dakota kid. Now he's the head coach at the University of Alabama. And he may think he knows what he's getting into, but I promise you he doesn't. Because there is only one Alabama, for better and for worse. Let's keep it rolling here on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Some very sad news today in the National Basketball Association as Golden State Warriors assistant coach Dejan Milojevic passed away after suffering a sudden heart attack last night while the team was in Salt Lake City preparing to play the Utah Jazz. The league has postponed tonight's Warriors-Jazz game. Milojevic suffered a sudden heart attack. Life-saving efforts were sadly unsuccessful. He was just 46 years old. He was, Milojevic, Serbian descent. He was a star player in his home country, and among the many Serbian stars that he mentored as a coach in his home country is two-time MVP Nikola Jokic, who, of course, is Serbian as well. Worked with him, Vika Zubac of the Los Angeles Clippers, Houston center Boban Marjanovic, and many, many more. He was hired as an assistant with the Warriors 2 years ago. This was his third season with the team. Prior to that, he had been a head coach for 8 years in Europe, including Jokic's head coach on his club team in Serbia. So stunning and sad news. Somebody with a great impact on the NBA and on the sport of basketball. His sudden passing at 46 years old, Dejan Milojevic, passed away. And as a result, tonight's Warriors-Jazz game will not be played.
Yeah, we had known earlier that it wasn't going to be played due to a health issue, potentially with an assistant coach, but then it came out that he had tragically passed away.
Yeah, and you could kind of connect the dots. Like there had been a report last night that there had been a medical issue, a serious medical issue, and before anything was reported about Milojevic's death, they had announced that they were postponing the game, yeah. And unfortunately, you could kind of decipher what that meant. So yes, thoughts and prayers to all who knew and loved him.
Well, let's stay in the NBA. The Indiana Pacers, they have acquired all-star forward Pascal Siakam in a trade that sends Bruce Brown, Jordan Nora, and 3 first-round picks to the Raptors. That, according to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN on Wednesday. Then a separate trade, the Pelicans sent Kyra Lewis Jr. to the Raptors and a second-round pick to the Pacers, sources have told ESPN. So some trades around the NBA today.
Pacers getting another star to pair with Tyrese Halliburton, who has broken out in a major way this year. Halliburton currently out with a hamstring injury, but should be back hopefully soon. The Pacers went to the in-season tournament championship, if you remember that happening earlier. Currently, they sit in a tie for 6th in the Eastern Conference standings, so trying to avoid the play-in. They're just 1 game out of the 4th seed right now and kind of making a run at it. And Siakam is an all-star, a player that should pair well with Halliburton's guard skills. Meanwhile, Toronto officially closing the book on the competitive portion of their season. They're 15-25, only a game and a half behind Brooklyn and Atlanta for the 10 seed, but deciding that's not worth pursuing and starting the rebuilding process in Toronto.
Yeah, a true rental. The Pacers. He'll be a free agent in July.
Yeah, that's the fascinating part of this is that they got 3 first-rounders for a guy who may not be on the team, like if the Pacers can't re-sign him. So it's a huge gamble for the Pacers. And I don't know that it makes them a championship team, but it certainly makes them more likely to stabilize their playoff berth and have to avoid the play-in. The guy I feel really bad about, for in this, my guy Cowboy Bruce Brown, won a championship ring with the Nuggets last year. The salary cap rules were such that the Nuggets just couldn't give him a contract. They couldn't give him enough money. And so he took a 1-year, $22 million deal with the Pacers, which I know, boo-hoo, he's making $22 million. Look, money is money, but personal circumstances, you don't stop having personal strife and personal circumstances don't stop happening to you because you make more money. That's just not how that works. So he went from being a guy that was a integral piece of a championship team, scored the winning basket in Game 5 of the NBA Finals. He'll be a legend in Denver forever. To having to sign a 1-year deal because of, the salary cap and that being what it is, to now not even getting to see it out with the team that signed him and having to go to Toronto. I wonder if Toronto buys him out. I wonder if he becomes a rental player down the stretch. I wonder if he'd come back to the Nuggets. I hope he can come back to the Nuggets. Do financial crimes. I don't care. The salary cap's not real. What are they going to do? Josh Kroenke, they going to put you in jail? Is Adam Silver going to put you in jail if you exceed the salary cap? Bring him home. Bring the Cowboy Brucey home. He was at the stock show last week, man, when this team was back in Denver. He went to the stock show. He's a real live cowboy. He's wearing a hat and everything. I miss him. I miss him so much. I love Bruce Brown.
Getting emotional, Dan.
I do. I love all those guys forever because they won championships. But, Brucey B is my guy. Couple of NFL notes here as we wrap up our 580 Sports Talk headlines. The Cleveland Browns will be searching for a new offensive coordinator. Alex Van Pelt will not be retained. Van Pelt had been the offensive coordinator since 2020, but not the primary play caller under Kevin Stefanski, who was the head coach since then. Browns went 11-6, made the playoffs this year, but Van Pelt is out as their offensive coordinator. Interviews continue across the league. The Panthers interviewed Dan Quinn, the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, via Zoom earlier today. The Atlanta Falcons announced late last night that they had interviewed Michigan head football coach Jim Harbaugh for their vacancy. Of course, they had previously interviewed former Patriots coach Bill Belichick. That's just a weird thing to say out loud.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't that just kind of a weird thing to comprehend? And one more kind of off-the-wall headline from not the NFL coaching ranks, but a former NFL head coach is going to be a defensive coordinator at the Division II level. Jerry Glanville. You probably don't remember Jerry Glanville, do you? You had no frame of reference for Jerry Glanville. Jerry Glanville was an NFL head coach of the Oilers. You have no frame of reference for the Houston Oilers. And neither does Brendan, to be fair. Like, I remember the Oilers. Brendan doesn't remember the Oilers. You definitely don't remember the Houston Oilers. He was the head coach of the Oilers from 1986 to 1990. Then he was the head coach of the Falcons from 1990 to 1993. He wore black sunglasses, like all black. He was the man in black. He also drove NASCAR. Like, I think he drove in a NASCAR Craftsman truck race.
I see Xfinity Series and Craftsman Series.
Yeah. He was serious about like trying to be a part-time NASCAR driver. He left tickets for Elvis at the will call for every single game he coached. Like, this is a character. We were talking the other day about this, Brendan and I. We don't have enough characters in football coaching in general, but we don't have enough characters, guys who are distinctly one of one. We were talking about this in relation to Rick Pitino, of how, like, Rick Pitino's got some personal foibles. Like, he's not perfect. I don't want to god up Rick Pitino here, but Rick Pitino is, above all else, distinctly Rick Pitino. There's only one guy like him. And we don't have enough coaches, I think, in any sport these days that are personalities like that. We're losing those guys. Like, there's only one Pete Carroll, and he might be done coaching now after the Seahawks parted ways.
I will say, in the NFL, I think Mike McDaniel is kind of that guy as well.
Is he, though? He knows Jerry Glanville, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I don't know who Jerry Glanville is, but I'm saying, like, kind of where he's more of a character than not. He's not a...
He is different, but I don't know that he's, like, he's not Bum Phillips. Like, he's not like one of those guys. I don't consider him a true character. He stands out from the crowd a little bit. He's a different kind of guy than others. And maybe over the long haul, you might be right, but we don't have enough of those distinct personalities as coaches. Jerry Glanville, every bit that. Anyway, we got sidetracked. Jerry Glanville is back in coaching. The 82-year-old will be the defensive coordinator at Northwestern Oklahoma State this coming season.
Wow.
The head coach of that program, Ronnie Jones, previously an NFL assistant himself under guys like Wade Phillips and Buddy Ryan. He went 1-10 at NWOSU last fall. Jerry Glanville last coached in college football from 2007 to 2009. He was the head coach at Portland State. His most recent coaching job was for the Alabama Airborne of Major League Football. You ever heard of that in your life?
No.
This guy just loves the game. 57 years of coaching experience for Jerry Glanville. They only made one of him. And this coming fall, at the age of 82, he'll be stalking the sidelines as the defensive coordinator. So, like, defense was his stock in trade. Like, that was his whole thing. I remember the Grits Blitz in Atlanta when he was the defensive coordinator there. It was a whole thing. He was an interesting guy. He was also 63 and 73 as a head coach, which is why he didn't get to do that for very long.
Yeah.
So anyway, a fun note for those who remember Jerry Glanville back in the day. A couple folks on the text line from the 785 mentioning Mike Leach as someone who was distinctly a one of one. And again, of course, his tragic passing late last year was or late in 2022, I should say. He is certainly missed in college football. But yeah, like we're not churning guys out like that anymore. These bland looking dudes who look like they belong on the PGA Tour and just drawing up their ball plays, but have nothing interesting to say and don't do anything interesting. So yeah, we need more personalities. Long live Jerry Glanville. Viva Jerry Glanville, as he might like to say. We're gonna take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Bills-Chiefs injury report. It's a rough one for Buffalo. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. 6:38 here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you. Chiefs Bills Sunday night divisional round. First true road playoff game of Patrick Mahomes' career, if you don't count the Super Bowl that he played against Tampa in Tampa, which for some reason nobody does. It's not that bad for the Chiefs. Only one player did not practice today. That was Derek Nottie. He was very clearly in some discomfort, checked out of the game for a spell on Saturday night, dealing with now a tricep injury, we know, and he did not practice. Cam Jones, backup linebacker, special teamer, was held out of practice and later today was placed on injured reserve. Cole Christensen elevated from the practice squad to the active roster, the 53-man, to replace Cam Jones. Limited participants today: Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross, L'Jarius Sneed, still working through that calf injury, and Sky Moore, who had his 21-day window to return from injured reserve, opened today. He was limited with his knee injury, and of course, I can hear all of you say it at the same time. Well, take your time, Sky. Don't rush. You want to make sure that knee's 100%. If you don't make it back, that's okay. Just take good care of that knee. I can hear.
So is this a Sky Moore hater show?
This is Sky Moore has done nothing to demand anything other than derision this season.
I do remember listening to a show like right during the interview process for me, and trying to get familiar with it, and you guys just going at Sky Moore for just not being a good player.
Well, the thing about Sky Moore this year is there were a lot of games where he was just getting his steps in, like just closing the rings on
he was
his
just
Apple
clocking
Watch.
in and clocking out.
Yeah, getting his cardio in. He second round pick last year, had some moments as a rookie, scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl, critical punt return in the AFC Championship game after a season spent fumbling punts. He muffed 3 punts. This year, a lot. I think the reason we feel burned by Sky Moore is because we expected a lot of Sky Moore. We kind of thought this would be the breakout year. We were not alone. We had Jesse Newell, who covers the Chiefs for the Kansas City Star, joined us on the show before the season and said, I think Sky Moore could be an 800, 900-yard guy as a receiver this year. Off by 600 to 700.
If he was, I would probably say the Chiefs would be hosting throughout the playoffs.
So, he
had a consistent receiver all season long. I feel like the Chiefs would be hosting throughout the playoffs.
I mean,
they'd win a few more games.
If Kadarius Toney had lined up on side,
that's true. That's true.
They would be at home on Sunday. That game right there is the difference. So, it wasn't a good year for Sky Moore. He dropped a lot of passes. He just didn't do much of anything all season long. There were a lot of games we'd look at his snap count and be like, oh yeah, he played 88% of the snaps. He had 1 target, no catches. Like, what is he doing out there? So, he went on IR and hasn't really been missed. And I don't know what his role would be upon returning, because the Chiefs have wisely pared down their receiver snaps and decided, hey, we've got 3 really great players. We're going to feed them the ball as much as possible. And Rice and Kelsey and Pacheco. It's going to be those 3 who touch it 75% of the time. And we're going to make the other team stop our best guys instead of trying to make it work with these guys who are not our best. So anyhow, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross, L'Jarius Sneed, all limited in practice today. Full participation for Nick Bolton, Deion Bush, Noah Gray, Wanye Morris, who's coming out of concussion protocol, Charles Omenihu, Rashee Rice, Donovan Smith, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So not much to be concerned about there for the Chiefs. They should be mostly whole going into Sunday. The Bills may not be able to say the same.
Yeah, not so much for them.
There were today 8 players who did not practice for the Bills. 2 of them were on vet rest, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller. They've been sitting out Wednesday practices for a chunk of the year now. They were listed as being DNP vet rest today. So,
but what has Von Miller really done this year?
Not much.
We talked about this a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, just the explosion, the terror he used to be coming off the edge. He's just not quite that player anymore.
I think it was that last injury that did it to him.
Probably because he looked like that player. Like, he made the play last year when the Chiefs beat the Bill, or rather when the Bills beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead. It was Von Miller who made the play late, who forced the interception that Mahomes threw to seal that game. He at his best was a game wrecker, and he's going into Canton, no doubt about it. But yeah, that explosion, that speed, that bend that they talk about with pass rushers, that's all but gone. Like, he's just not that player anymore. And Father Time is undefeated, as they say. Also not practicing today, Gabe Davis, who did not play in round one. He is dealing with a knee injury. He did not practice. Gabe Davis, of course, kills the Chiefs, absolutely assassinates the Chiefs. Had the 4 touchdowns in the divisional round game 2 years ago. He did not practice today. Terrell Bernard, linebacker, leading tackler for the Bills this year, had to be carted off the field on Monday, dealing with an ankle sprain. He did not practice today. Also out of practice, safety Taylor Rapp, dealing with a calf injury. Linebacker Balin Spector. He's not a great player, but he's got experience in their defense, and he's playing because they're running out of bodies at linebacker. He left Monday's game with a back injury. He did not practice. Christian Benford, cornerback, did not practice with a knee injury. Again, they're losing bodies at corner. Tre'Davious White tore his Achilles midway through the year, their best guy. So Benford has been pretty indispensable for them. He didn't play on Monday, and he continues to sit out of practice with a knee injury. Sam Martin, the punter, DNP, left hamstring injury, suffered, you may have seen it, on that field goal that was blocked in the first half. He's the holder. He came up lame, chasing down the recovery on the blocked field goal, and he is dealing with an injury that is sufficient enough to warrant the Bills bringing in another punter for a workout today. You had seen that story, Spencer?
Yeah. And now I can't remember who the punter was.
Matt Hack.
Yes. He punted for them, I think, the COVID year, maybe? 2021, maybe? He was on the team.
Yeah, it was 2021. Yeah, it was a year after that. Matt Haack, H-A-A-C-K. Matt Haack was signed to the practice squad today, just in case Sam Martin can't go. Teron Johnson, cornerback. He's the one who made that interception on Mahomes to beat him at Arrowhead last year. He suffered a concussion in Monday's game. He was limited today, which is a good sign that he was allowed to do any work, but he's still in the concussion protocol. Unless he comes out, he's not going to be able to go on Sunday. Full participation for Micah Hyde with a neck injury. Full participation for Josh Allen dealing with a neck injury. Tyrell Dodson's shoulder limited him in practice. Another one of the crew of linebackers that have been forced into duty because of all the injuries at linebacker for the Bills. Football's a violent game. That's one factor. The turf in Buffalo was rock solid on Monday. It's a short turnaround for Buffalo. I really think this is going to be a factor. Even if some of these guys come back and play, I really think the Chiefs being the fresher team is going to be a factor on Sunday.
I really think too. I mean, that was going to be one of my points during this injury report segment was, I mean, most of the guys on that injury report that didn't practice, I feel like they're integral part of the Bills team. I mean, you look at Von Miller, although he's not who he was, he's still a big member of the team. You got Rapp, the guy that comes in, probably, I think, nickel package potentially. Then you got Spector, as you mentioned, who didn't practice. I mean, just a lot of Gabe Davis, just big names on this team, and then they're depleted at corner, so it doesn't help that you have 2 corners that one didn't practice and one was limited with a concussion.
So we'll be tracking that, obviously, throughout the week, but you'd rather have the Chiefs injury list than the Bills injury list right now. It's only Wednesday. A lot of things can happen, but I think health-wise, you'd rather be Kansas City than Buffalo. We're going to take a break, come back with more on 580 Sports Talk after this. Dan and Spencer wrapping things up on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan's at Lee Arena. Washburn basketball is underway. Women's game at home, followed by a men's contest in MIAA action tonight. You can hear that over on our sister station, Classic Country 106.9. It's not Random Question Tuesday, but we've only got a couple of minutes here, so I'll allow this from Vance in the YouTube comments. Spencer, any culture shock moving to Topeka from West Virginia?
I mean, if we're doing a nearsighted culture shock, it would be the frigid weather that I drove into when I got here.
How many people have told you, "Hey, that's not typical"?
Probably everyone I've seen that have talked about it.
I know I did. I know one of the first things I said, "Hey, brother, it's not. This doesn't happen all the time."
But so far, I guess I would say coming from, I mean, West Virginia was different. I did live there for 2 years, although the part of West Virginia, or I went to college the southwestern part of the state. You could go to Ohio, you could go to Kentucky within 25 minutes. But then when I got my first job in radio, I was working in the eastern panhandle along the I-81 corridor, hour and a half from James Madison in Virginia. You were an hour from Maryland, or 15, 20 minutes from Maryland, and then 30 minutes from Pennsylvania line. And then you're about 45 minutes from Virginia. So while I was in West Virginia, I was in the one of the highly populated parts of West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say so far in the few days, less traffic.
Well, that's gotta be a good thing, right?
A great thing. That was the culture shock, though, is being able to not deal with traffic in a commute, getting on the interstate.
Yeah. I mean, we're down to one lane through downtown. They're rebuilding I-70. You should have seen what it was before, brother. It was it's still a little rough, but they're going to make it nice eventually here. But that'll certain times a day there'd be some little bit of log jam there on 70.
5 days in, though, I don't think anything really else yet. I haven't really done a lot because it was so cold.
Right.
I literally got my apartment, and then stayed inside for as much as I could, went and got the things I needed to get and went back inside.
Sure.
And then that's all I did over the weekend and watched football.
You plan on maybe doing a little exploring and getting around when the weather
allows? Oh yeah. Definitely want to explore.
So there's a whole list of things that our old boss, Jake LeBon, gave one of our former coworkers, Fulton Castor. He gave him like homework. We're not gonna give you homework on 5A Sports Talk, but we will tell you, like, you know, if you get a chance to tour the Capitol building, or definitely go check out Brown versus Board of Education. That site is a really, really cool deal and a big piece of American history, obviously. So there's plenty of things I'm sure that you'll discover and enjoy.
My dad was excited to see that they have an Evel Knievel museum here.
Yeah. So at last check, they're trying to move it. Like I think they're trying to move it to Vegas, but it is still here. So
I might have to go to it before it potentially moves. Though.
Yes, you will want to check.
I can see why it would move to Vegas, though. I feel like that would fit into the Vegas vibes.
I'll confess that at first I was like, why an Evel Knievel museum in Topeka? Did he do like a famous jump in Topeka? Is he from there? And no, it's just this is where they got some memorabilia. So this is where it's at.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
I was going to ask that. I didn't even know. I was like, is he from here? Was there a jump here? So none of the above.
No, none of the above. But no, you can go check that out. And there's some other things that'll be worth your time as you get accustomed. We're gonna have to get you out to we're gonna get you out to Bramlage. We're gonna get you out to Allen Fieldhouse.
Yeah, that's definitely on the list because
you're gonna experience big time college basketball in the cradle of hoops.
I will say, the only big time college basketball I've been to it wasn't really a big time game, but when I was at Marshall, Black Friday 2018. Marshall played at Maryland.
Oh, okay.
So I did get to see Xfinity Center and call a game from Xfinity Center.
Oh, nice.
During break, because the guy that I worked with at the time lived in Pennsylvania, about an hour away from Xfinity Center, and I lived an hour and a half away from Xfinity Center. So it kind of worked out great. We just met in the middle.
We'll send you some good games too, so you can experience those places when those joints are jumping. They're pretty intimidating. We're going to take one final break here on 5A Sports Talk. We'll come back with a final word after this. Final word for this Wednesday, Spencer. Make it quick.
Well, it'd be helpful if I turn the mic on. I'm happy
Yeah.
that TV is finally back as we know it. Primetime shows. We talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Chicago Fire, Chicago PD return tonight. So while there's no Kansas sports, I'm going to be watching that.
I think we're going to watch the season finale of Fargo tonight. That was taped last night. And then maybe Chicago PD if we've got time. Final word for me. What a win for K-State. Jerome Tang's guys, they just believe and they just find a way. That's going to wrap it up for 580 Sports Talk today. We'll be back tomorrow from 2 to 4 before coverage of the Topeka Invitational Tournament. For Brendan Wrzinski and Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero. This has been 580 Sports Talk.